6:01, good morning, live from the Circus Sports at the Mint Kentucky Downs Studios. Happy Friday, I'm Justin Hawkins. The NFL Game of the Year, an overtime thriller for Thursday Night Football last night. Down 16 points in the fourth quarter, the Seahawks rallied back to beat the Rams 38-37 in overtime. Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford threw for 457 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 of which went to wide receiver Puka Nacua, who had 12 catches for 225 yards. Seahawks quarterback Sam Darnold led Seattle's comeback and converted 3 straight 2-point conversions to end the game, including the overtime winner, finding Eric Saubert in the end zone. Seattle clinches a playoff berth and now sits atop the NFC after the win. In other NFL news, last night the Jaguars and wide receiver Jacoby Myers agreed to a 3-year, $60 million extension with $40 million in guarantees. Myers, since joining the Jags back in early November, has 27 catches for 355 yards and 3 touchdowns in 6 games. It leads the Jacksonville Jaguars in that span. And the Titans Thursday injury report yesterday as they continue to prepare to host Gardner Minshew and the Kansas City Chiefs this Sunday at Nissan Stadium for a noon kickoff. Cedric Gray with a concussion and Amani Hooker with an illness did not practice for a second consecutive day. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, you got to go to USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans involves. This is 104.5, The Zone.
Good morning and happy Friday. Welcome in to Ramon and Will on 104.5 The Zone and 104.5 The Zone TV. You are missing Ramon, but you've got Will. You've got Justin Hawkins. You've got the Effin and Bake Chat. 615-737-1045. Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitter, or Twitch, where you jump in. We got a lot to talk about this morning. We got the game of the year in the NFL last night between the Seahawks and Rams. I'm going to give you 5 NFL Week 16 games that interest me. Starting, of course, with Titans and Chiefs coming up here in 15 minutes. Brent Hubbs of VolQuest will stop by at 7:20, as always, on Fridays, as will Ron Slay in his customary time at 9:20. And we've got college football playoff games to talk about as well. Saturday NFL football, playoff football tonight in Norman, Oklahoma. We have got only 4 hours to get to it all. I say only, Justin Hawkins, because we are just totally loaded with topics, with discussions, with top fives, with rankings, with reaction to the game of the year last night in the NFL. Incredible football game last night.
Oh, my goodness. You couldn't ask for a better Thursday night. It's probably the best Thursday night football game that Amazon's ever had.
Oh, that's a good... Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Probably. I mean, I can't off the top of my head think of a better one.
I mean,
for sure.
What a comeback. 16 points down in the fourth quarter. Sam Darnold comes back. He doesn't have an entirely great fourth quarter, but it's super efficient. After he throws the interception with about 9 minutes to go, he turned the lights on and he went to work.
22 at 34, 270 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. The takes were flying off the shelves like toys at Christmas on Sam Darnold last night. He comes back from 2 interceptions, one that set up the Rams on the 1-yard line that was essentially a pick 6, and does enough in the fourth quarter. Sam Darnold was very up and down. I think he split the needle, Justin, between what we talked about yesterday. He needed to show something good against the LA Rams and defensive coordinator Chris Shula, who have really had his number. And he did, while also showing us that in the same game, he can still kind of be a disaster. The Rams outgained the Seahawks by 166 yards in this game. The Rams had a season-high 581 yards and didn't turn the ball over. Matthew Stafford, 457 yards, the third most in his career. Puka Nacua, a career-high 225 yards. And ultimately, in part because of a backward pass deflected, picked up randomly in the end zone for a 2-point conversion, the Seattle Seahawks win this game.
If it wasn't for a missed field goal at the end of the game by the Rams kicker, we'd be talking about an entirely different outcome.
100%.
But
100%. Harrison Mevis, the former Missouri kicker.
thicker kicker.
That's not nice.
Well, that's what they said. That's how they called him. I mean, if you calling him that on national air, I mean, why can't we?
Are we doing this with the new? Is he the new Randy Bullock now?
Ooh,
is that Harrison Mevis's role in the?
Well,
NFL?
I don't know. He missed. I don't know.
Okay,
it's close enough.
I think wasn't that like his first miss of the season too? Pretty sure it was.
Yeah,
pretty sure it was. So anyway, I think you talk about what Sam Darnold did in this game, and man, I mean, like 2 interceptions that were rough. Yet I think it is certainly a tip of the cap to what Seattle has, in special teams, with Rashid Shaheed's punt return for a touchdown that made a really big difference in this game. It just their ability to get stops when they needed to. They started to heat up Matthew Stafford, and the Rams, who did score in overtime, just weren't able to consistently move the football. You could tell early the respect that Sean McVay had for the Seattle offense and just Seattle as a team in this game with how much LA was going for it on 4th down really early. Rams turned it over on downs in their opening drive. They were only 3 of 6 in the red zone, which ultimately ended up really making a difference in this game. Sean McVay went for it 4th and 2 at the Seattle 5 on their second possession after going for it 4th and 1 from his own 38-yard line earlier. They had a touchdown called back via penalty. How do you see the hierarchy of these two teams coming out of this game? Because Seattle now will have the inside track to the 1 seed. They control their own destiny. They have the ability now to funnel the NFC through one of the most difficult places to play in football. Meanwhile, I come out of this game more confident that the Rams, barely, but that the Rams are the better football team. And it took 3 2-point conversions that were successful, a backwards pass deflected fumble recovery in the end zone, and a punt return for a touchdown by Rashid Shaheed to win this football game, to overcome 2 really bad Sam Darnold interceptions.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, what a get in the trade deadline for Seattle to get Rashid Shaheed. He's got 2 touchdowns this season, 1 returning for a punt and 1 for a kick. But also, to your point, I think this is a good game result for both teams, right? So now the Seahawks are the 1 seed in the NFC. They needed that for the home field advantage that they get. But also, I feel even more confident for the Rams that they can go on the road and have this sort of game. Score 38 points. Matthew Stafford throwing for almost 500 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. This is the game that this year's potential MVP needed. He got it. This is also a game that Sam Darnold and the Seahawks needed, and they got it. I feel confident that the Super Bowl representative for the NFC is one of these 2 teams.
I think so, too. I mean, it certainly feels like they are both the strongest contenders at this point. And, I mean, when you look at what worked for Seattle in this second half and in the fourth quarter to be able to come back, it was less about Sam Darnold really stepping up, more so than it was Clint Kubiak scheming him guys wide open. You look at the touchdown to A.J. Barner that they had to set up the 2-point conversion that would then tie the game. A great play call where Barner starts to run a slant and then kind of sticks and then comes out. It's kind of that like stick and nod almost, kind of a corner route. Just a great design by Clint Kubiak off play action to get him open, get the defense running to the offensive left, and then just funnel out Barner wide open in the right. I thought the game-winning 2-point conversion, which, by the way, first ever NFL overtime game to end on a successful 2-point conversion.
Well, that's impressive.
With the new NFL rules, with a successful two-point conversion, that is. Eric Saubert, who had never caught a 2-pointer in his career, had 2 catches this season. If you had put 5 regular human beings, Gen Pop, as we say, us common folk, non-NFLers, and in a lineup, and then put Eric Saubert in there and asked me to pick out who was the NFL player, I probably would have had no idea who the NFL player was.
So he's a plain Jane.
I mean, he had 2 catches coming into the season. The play design there from Clint Kubiak, I tweeted it out last night. This was a really good display for 2 potential Titans coaching candidates. Chris Shula, the Rams defensive coordinator, and Clint Kubiak, the Seattle Seahawks offensive coordinator. These guys are throwing haymakers at each other. I mean, you had blitz designs, and they were heating up Sam Darnold. They're dropping back big boy Kobe Turner back in coverage for one of these interceptions. They're in this tight man-to-man look, and then all of a sudden the slot corner drops back in zone, picks off Darnold, nearly returns it for a touchdown. I thought that this was a really, really good game for those two guys, and even despite the fact that the LA Rams gave up the 37 points that they did, I thought Chris Shula showed some really, really impressive things. Either of those two guys are going to be right at the top. To be honest with you, Justin, I'm going to be surprised if Clint Kubiak and Chris Shula aren't both head coaches in this cycle. Not just based off this game, but my goodness.
Well, it's a good reference.
You have on one side of the ball the two head coaches essentially dueling in Mike Macdonald, the Seattle Seahawks head coach, defensive-minded guy, against Sean McVay, we obviously know is a very offensive-minded guy. And then their two coordinators on their opposite sides of the ball. This is turning into, as long as all of those guys are there, those four coaches, the two head coaches, the two coordinators, and I don't think those two coordinators are going to be at their spots for a very long time, this is becoming the game in the NFC.
Yeah.
I know Kyle Shanahan probably has something to say about that. Obviously, the defending Super Bowl champion, Philadelphia Eagles, the NFC North, there are other good teams. You got to go through these two teams, to me. And you're right. I feel even more confident that the NFC champion is going to either be the LA Rams or the Seattle Seahawks.
If the Seahawks they end up going the way that it's going, and they win the NFC, and the Rams are the 5th seed, look out, whoever that number 2 seed is.
Yeah, no doubt.
Or the number 4 seed, I guess.
No doubt about it.
And typically in an NFL game, I saw this on Twitter last night.
Mm-hmm.
There are an average of 24 possessions per game.
Yep.
In the fourth quarter alone last night, there were 11.
Yeah, there were like 6 in the last 5 minutes.
Yeah. And
Crazy.
what's really impressive, not just for the Seahawks offensive side of things, but for the defensive side of things, they really locked down in the fourth quarter. The final 5 possessions before overtime, the Rams had 4 punts and then obviously the missed field goal.
Incredible.
So the Seahawks really locked down when they needed to, and that's also what catapulted them in the win. Not going to discredit what the offense did because obviously that's what scores the points. But without that Seahawks defense, you're looking at a different result.
Live from the 104.5 The Zone Circus Sports Studio, Kentucky's largest sports book can now be found at Circus Sports at Kentucky Downs. Coming up, we've got 5 NFL Week 16 games that are interesting to me. We're going to start with Titans and Chiefs, work our way down the NFL slate starting tomorrow. Coming up next. Friday morning at Ramon and Will, 104.5 The Zone. Stream it live on 104.5 The Zone TV, Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitter, or Twitch. You can jump in as well and make me company. Justin Hawkins here as well, producing the show, 615-737-1045. I got 5 NFL Week 16 games that interest me, starting, of course, with Titans-Chiefs. Another very good NFL slate this weekend. And I think there is one really big question that Cam Ward has got to answer against Kansas City on Sunday. And really, it kind of goes back to the way we started the season with Cam and the first defense that Cam Ward played as a Tennessee Titan. When we go back to week 1 and against Denver, and with the way the Titans opened the season against the Broncos, the major question was, how are you going to handle pressure? And how are you going to handle blitzes where you don't know where guys are coming from? I think this is something that Cam Ward is starting to get better at as he, I think, learns how to speed up his clock, speed up his processing, and get the ball out on time. However, against the blitz, there are still concerns for this offense. Not all Cam Ward's fault. Receivers have got to get a little bit more separation, especially against man coverage in third and long. That's where the Titans have obviously had the most trouble this season if you've watched them. But Next Gen Stats tells the story of what Cam Ward has looked like against blitzes and against a Steve Spagnuolo defense that might not be as motivated by a playoff chase. Obviously, the Chiefs are out of playoff contention. Might not have some of the players that, with 50-50 or even 40-60 injuries. I would be curious to see how much Kansas City pushes some guys out there injury-wise, Chris Jones being one of them, who was limited again yesterday in practice. Against the blitz and against what Steve Spagnuolo does, the next step for Cam Ward's progression is figuring out how to still be himself against teams that heat him up. Cam Ward this season has thrown for 550 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions against the blitz. According to Next Gen Stats, he has completed just 49.5% of those passes against blitzes. That is the second lowest rate in the NFL. His 69.0 passer rating against the blitz ranks third lowest in the NFL this season. The Chiefs, meanwhile, have blitzed 35.8% of the time against opponent dropbacks this season. That is the third highest rate in the league. It is the big question that Cam Ward has got to answer in this game. How do you handle the blitz, and what's your plan when it happens? I also think that, obviously, Bo Hardegree, Nick Holtz, and Mike McCoy will also know the Chiefs operate in this way. Can you find a way to have the screen game be more consistent, as it has been, I'll give them credit, over the last month? I think that is one area where the Titans are finding tangible progress in terms of it's not perfect. It's not still as consistent as I think they would like for it to be. Having some element of an outlet in the screen game as the Titans have played some premier pass rushers over these past couple of weeks and really going back to after the bye in the way the Titans were able to scheme getting the ball out of Cam Ward's hands quickly against the Houston Texans and Seattle Seahawks after the bye week, and obviously Cleveland, San Francisco, the matchups that they have had since then. But that, I think, is the question. Can the run game help take some of that pressure off? Is it draw plays? Is it screens? Is it the quick line of scrimmage balls to Chimere Dike that I thought were also a little bit more successful last week than they have been at times this season? Whatever that corresponding adjustment is, I am very interested to see how the Titans try to use Kansas City's aggressiveness against them. And the big question is, can Cam Ward throw accurate passes in the face of blitzers? We're going to find out. Let's go to the phones. Let's go to Daniel in the borough who wants to chime in on this. What's up, Daniel?
Yeah. Answer to your question, yes. The run game can absolutely help take pressure off Cam Ward. If you get a successful run game going and you have guys committing to a line of scrimmage, it sets up play action. You got Chimere Dike, whoever is out there. they can take a pass right over the top of the heads of some blitzers and just run it for some big gain, and then kind of make Kansas City sputter a little bit, make them unsure of themselves. But it all comes down to Cam Ward has to be able to throw those accurate passes, and I think he can. It's just going to be a matter of, will Kansas City and, honestly, our offensive line, will they get to Cam Ward, or will he actually have time to make those throws?
It's a great point. Thank you, Daniel. Appreciate the call. It is not the kind of week where the run game can take a step back to what it was earlier in the season, really before these last two games, and you have a ton of success on offense without hitting some big explosive plays, and Cam kind of doing things he hasn't consistently done this season, which would be finding the explosive pass game down the field with more accurate passes. I think the other question is, who's he throwing the ball to? Gunnar Helm limited in practice with that toe injury for the second straight day. I would imagine that he's probably in a pretty good spot, having still practiced all week, albeit in a limited fashion. Van Jefferson kind of trying to work his way back from that back injury. Xavier Restrepo practicing more this week. Maybe he's getting closer to a return. We don't get injury designations on him, considering he is still a practice squad player. So a bit harder to know exactly what he has been able to do this week and how close he is to returning. But I'm interested, Justin, too, because I think if this run game could have a third straight game of progress and of really helping Cam in the offense, all of a sudden I'm starting to have more hope that we've got sustainable success and not just, hey, we had a couple pretty good matchups and 2 games is not much of a trend. You do something for 3, 4, 5 games, we'll start to have more of a conversation about, hey, maybe this run game is finally back on track moving forward, and this team can really have some more success there and momentum to take into the offseason.
And obviously this is a great game to get that and continue that momentum. I'm just curious to see how much the Chiefs are going to know that at the moment, the Titans' run game is the best thing they have right now. And then they're going to continue to block out those inside the box there. Yeah, and they're going to force him to throw. Do you have Van Jefferson out there? You know, are you playing 2 tight end sets, which the Titans don't do very often? You know, how much are you going to incorporate this style of offense when the Chiefs know what your strength is at the moment? But to your point about the blitzes earlier, how much do you think that Cam's success or lack thereof is more of him stepping up in the pocket and not avoiding those blitzes and seeing his mans down the field? Because he's not been able to layer his throws very well this season. He's gotten better as the season has gone on. But when it comes to the blitzes, how much does, you know, going from college to the NFL when things speed up, how much do you think that that's a factor, I guess?
Well, I mean, it's the factor, right? Like, it's his ability to stand in and make accurate throws. You're 100% right. Like, down the field with guys in your face, and oftentimes that being a secondary target. That, I think, is the thing that Cam has had trouble with this season, is that you can literally see him drop his head and look around and say, oh, crap, what's next? At times against the blitz when his primary guy is covered.
And I can't remember who we had on a couple weeks ago when they were talking. I feel like it was Sam Munson, but I can't remember exactly who it was. But talking about how Cam needs to use his legs a little bit more.
Yes, Steve Palazzolo said that.
Steve Palazzolo, okay. So that's going to be a huge factor in this one. If
it is. You just got to be decisive if you are going to run. Like, right. That's the thing, is when he's trying to just kind of figure it out as he goes, and he's just scrambling around out of the back of the pocket. I want less of that. But against the blitz, honestly, I just kind of want him to stand in there and deliver.
Right.
Whether that's a check down, whether that's these intermediate passes that he was so good at in college that we've not seen as much. I think it gets blitz when it's harder to find a run lane for me personally. I just want to see more accurate intermediate to downfield passing.
They just got to get open.
That's true.
That's the other caveat that is so tough that it's been all season is, sure, he can find the pass. Is he, one, going to be accurate? And 2, is the throw even going to be there because the receiver's there?
Tomorrow night at 7:20, Packers at Bears again. These two teams running it back after playing 2 weeks ago. I have no idea for the life of me why the NFL does this. I don't like it. And it is the reality of where they are at. Panthers and Bucks that we're going to talk about in a minute. Same boat. They played twice in the final 3 games of the season. Makes no sense to me. Makes absolutely no sense to me. So we'll go in chronological order here of these other 4 games that interest me of the NFL weekend. Packers and Bears tomorrow night at 7:20 as the Dukes of James Madison are taking on Oregon. Another game that we'll preview coming up at 8:20. So I got one question for each of these games. Packers favored by 1.5 in this game. Question for this one is, who overcomes their injuries better? So after losses this season, the Packers have a tie at Dallas, a loss at Philly, or a loss against Philly, and a win at New York on their resume. Packers throw it well, the Bears run it well. Green Bay second in pass efficiency, Bears fifth in run efficiency. The biggest difference is the Packers very good against the run defensively. Bears solid, top 11, not elite. Packers number 2 run defense in the league. How do the Chicago Bears find a way to move the football if they can't run the football? Caleb Williams is a 58% completion percentage in 2025. That is the second lowest among qualified quarterbacks behind J.J. McCarthy. This season in the NFL, you do not want to be near J.J. McCarthy in any metric or any statistic. Who are the Packers without Micah Parsons? And who are the Bears without Luther Burden and Rome Odunze? Who overcomes their injuries? I think the other question is, for Caleb Williams, a guy who scrambles as much as he does, is he able to get away with that against a Packers defense that's really good at stopping quarterbacks from doing that? Through 15 weeks, the Packers defense has allowed just 129 rushing yards on scrambles. That is tied with the Carolina Panthers for the fewest in the NFL. Really in the same way, too, that Sam Darnold, we talked about his team that he just can't get over the hump against until last night, is the LA Rams. Jordan Love is kind of the opposite with the Chicago Bears. Jordan Love is 4-1 in his career versus the Bears and has averaged 10.0 passing yards per attempt in those games. That is the 5th highest pass yards per attempt by any quarterback against any opponent in the last 40 seasons of quarterbacks with at least 5 starts against the team. This is a big game for Caleb Williams. At home, he's playing better. He has a run game. What happens when 2 of your targets are out and you are going up against an elite run defense that is likely going to force you to have to throw to beat them, at least a little bit? Caleb Williams has gotten a lot better this season. I'm still not out on him in any stretch of the imagination. But again, this is where the expectation for you as a number 1 overall pick and franchise quarterback is to make it work with who's out there. And that's not totally fair. Tough. You're a number 1 overall pick in year 2. You don't get the rookie excuse anymore. You don't get the Matt Eberflus excuse anymore. How does Caleb Williams elevate backup wide receivers against the Green Bay Packers in a divisional game in December when everyone is hurt, including the other team as well, because Micah Parsons will not play in this game and will not play in any game for the rest of the season? Remains to be seen. Really, really big game for Caleb Williams tomorrow night.
Would you consider this almost a milestone game for Caleb Williams? Having 2 of his top receivers out. Obviously, you have DJ Moore there. DeAndre Swift is questionable to play with a groin injury. I would almost consider this to be a milestone. Of course, there's no Micah Parsons there, so there's a little bit of that relief that you don't have that monster coming at you almost every snap. But how do you face adversity in this manner when you've only beaten Green Bay once in your career? I consider this a little bit of a milestone. How are you going to come out and play this game? Because if he comes out and he throws to his to Cole Kmet, who is also questionable, DJ Moore, like, what kind of statistics do you have in this game? How do you avoid that kind of pressure? And if they're going to take away your run game, you know, he's got legs as well. So how does he also come to that factor? I think this is a bit of a milestone, and if the Bears do come out and win, then you're going to know he's living up to that number 1 overall pick potential.
100%. I agree. Tampa Bay at Carolina, Sunday at noon. Tampa is a 3-point favorite in this game. This is a classic Loser leaves town game. Tampa Bay owns the tiebreaker of record against common opponents right now at the top of the NFC South. So the Bucks are 5-5. The Panthers are 4-6. The Bucks have won 5 in a row against Carolina since Bryce Young was selected number 1 in 2023, and 9 of the past 10 since 2020. Panthers have gotten better. This is still a team that they have not made that progress against. Of course, the Bucks have won the past 4 NFC South titles. Carolina's last division title came in 2015, ending a string of 3 straight. Panthers are an NFL worst. This is crazy to me. 0-12 as the betting favorite since 2021. All 7 of the Carolina Panthers wins this season have come as underdogs. Make that make sense. Both teams recently lost to the Saints. These teams played twice in the last 3 games, like we just said. Carolina has a Seattle game in between. Tampa has the Dolphins. I think really, that being said, Carolina's got to sweep Tampa. Tampa is in the driver's seat. Tampa already has the tiebreaker, and they get to play the Dolphins in the middle of this kind of home and home that they're playing with Carolina at the end of the season, and Carolina's got to play the Seahawks. Question for me is this a get-right game for Baker Mayfield? The Panthers are last in the league in pressure rate. Bucks, very good, conversely on defense, 4th in pressure rate. Baker Mayfield's really quietly, I think, been really disappointing this year. And there was a time where, about middle of the way through the season, I felt really good about having Baker Mayfield as my number 5 quarterback in our top 5 quarterback rankings over the offseason. I look like an idiot now. Don't clip that. A lot of people would want that. I look like an idiot now with Baker Mayfield. He has let me down. 26th among qualified quarterbacks with a 61.2 completion percentage this season. Over the last 2 seasons, Baker Mayfield's 67.9% completion percentage was 7th best among all players to attempt at least 500 passes in that span. Tampa has no business losing 5 out of 6 games in any stretch of 6 games ever with how good they are.
Especially to the teams that they've lost to.
Because at this stretch, there were some good ones. New England, at Buffalo, at L.A., fair. I get it. But home to the Saints? In Tampa against the Falcons? They've run for over 100 yards in 4 of those 6 games. Baker Mayfield has a wide-open receiver to ice the game away and end it. Last week, aren't able to do so. And then all of a sudden, here comes Kirk Cousins of the Falcons, and they lead a game-winning drive, and that's that. This game will be won in the red zone. That's the big thing on Bucks and Panthers. The Bucks' red zone defense is surrendering a 72.2% red zone efficiency rating to opponents. That is the worst by 10 percentage points in the Todd Bowles era as a head coach from 2023 to 2025 and defensive coordinator from 2019 to 2022. So in the 6 years that Todd Bowles has been in Tampa, this is the worst by 10 percentage points red zone defense that Tampa Bay has had. It was one of the reasons why Atlanta and Kirk Cousins were able to have the success they did a week ago. Bryce Young and the Carolina Panthers' ability to win this game starts by finishing with touchdowns in the red zone. Simple, not groundbreaking stuff, but if the Bucks are going to be anything competent over the end of this season and in the postseason, they have got to fix the red zone defense, and Baker Mayfield's got to hit open receivers. 2 more games to preview for you coming up to wrap up hour number 1. Jags at Broncos, Patriots at Ravens. 5 interesting Week 16 games. We'll continue that next. Put Lee Company on your team and stay ahead of the game with home maintenance, repairs, and more. For as little as $14 a month, become a Lee Company Plus member and receive 4 annual visits to your home for your heating air conditioning, plumbing, and electrical systems. Even better, Lee Company Plus members receive up to 20% off on every visit and enjoy priority service. You can learn more online at leecompany.com/plus. Platinum Home Protection starts with a Lee Company Plus membership for the folks who have over 80 years of experience serving Middle Tennessee. They've been trusted since 1944. Lee Company's open 24/7, and they have 14 community locations in Tennessee, Kentucky, and Alabama. With over 1,800 employees and over 1,100 vehicles in their fleet, you got to put Lee Company on your team and put all of these great things on your side. With the Lee Company Plus membership, get $14 a month. Give $14 a month. Get those 4 annual visits. Heating, air conditioning, plumbing, electrical. Get it all online at leecompany.com. That's Lee Company, all you need. Wrapping up hour one on Ramon and Will, Friday morning edition in studio and streaming live on 104.5 The Zone TV, Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitter, or Twitch. Going through 5 NFL games that interest me. No Ramon this morning. Myself, Justin Hawkins, hanging out with you till 10 o'clock. And Brent Hubb's going to join us in 30 minutes. Jags at Broncos is the next game that I think is very, very, very interesting. Kind of a prove-it game for Jacksonville to see how legit they really are at the top of the AFC. Now, Jacksonville should feel good about its chances to make the playoffs. But the Broncos at this point, after what they did against the Packers last weekend, if they win this game, it might finally be time to start really taking them seriously this year as a contender right now. Now, if you've been listening to the show, you know we have been very high on the Denver Broncos through the offseason, through week 1 and the matchup with the Titans. I came back from Denver, and I was impressed. I think they are a team with a really high floor. I don't know how high their ceiling is. Now, they get the 1 seed. They shortened their path to the Super Bowl by a game. That's one less game for Bo Nix to be bad Bo and maybe just have to be pretty good Bo. And again, we live in a world where the Philadelphia Eagles last season won a Super Bowl with pretty good Jalen Hurts. I think Jalen Hurts is a good NFL quarterback. I don't think he's elite. I think he's had some elite seasons. I think overall the entire body of work has been fine. In a lot of ways, Denver mirrors that Philadelphia team a season ago. Now, albeit with a little bit less consistent of a run game. They don't have the premium players at wide receiver, although I do think Courtland Sutton's pretty underrated. They are just really good on both lines of scrimmage. They have ridden that wave and the big uglies to 11 straight wins. Jacksonville brings a 5-game run into Denver this weekend. The Jags have forced the second most turnovers in the NFL this season at 26. They are plus 10 in turnover margin, Jacksonville, and they are starting drives in the 5th best starting field position in the NFL this year. When they don't win the turnover battle, things change. In 3 of their 4 losses this season, Jacksonville has been even in turnover margin. They are a team that consistently creates turnovers, and then this offense is pretty good at capitalizing on it. They are also a run-first offense with Trevor Lawrence doing enough in the pass game. Jacksonville has rushed for less than 100 yards in 3 of their 4 losses this season. Denver only has 14 turnovers this year. It's 9th best in the NFL. They are also the number 2 run defense in the league. The problem for Jacksonville in this game is sustaining drives on 3rd down. Denver is the number 1 3rd down defense in the NFL. Jacksonville is the number 25 3rd down offense. If you put Trevor Lawrence in 3rd and even just long-ish, 3rd and medium, he has not been consistently able to move the chains. Now, with Jacoby Myers in as wide receiver 2 and the impact that he's had in Jacksonville, things have certainly gotten better for Trevor, for that entire offense. My question is, which quarterback just plays better in this game? I think it's a quarterback battle game. Obviously, with a 3-point spread at home, again, Vegas is telling us how they feel about these two teams, that Jacksonville and Denver are equal. On a neutral field, that this would likely be a pick'em. Bo Nix has thrown 9 picks. He has 2 games with multiple interceptions. Denver has won both of them. There have been plenty of times this season where they have won in spite of his inconsistency. The problem for Jacksonville is in the past 4 games, he has been consistently good. 5 touchdowns, 1 interception for Bo Nix in the last 4 games. He's thrown for 64% or better completion percentage in each one of those games. I feel good about Denver here. I don't think Jacksonville is going to be able to sustain enough drives against the Broncos to put some pressure on Bo Nix to have to throw. These are the top 2 run defenses in the league. Which running back and which run game overall can hit 1 or 2 explosives or just be able to do enough to take the pressure off of their quarterback? That team will win this game.
If both quarterbacks do just enough to keep the game going and their defenses both thrive, you pick the better defense, which is Denver. Let me put something in your ear.
Okay.
Go back to 2015. Denver Broncos win the Super Bowl.
Okay.
Broncos have the best defense in the league.
Yep.
They allow about 280 yards per game, 18 points per game.
Sure.
Come to 2025, 10 years later, 280 points per game allowed on defense, 18 points per game allowed on defense. A very comparable defense, a very comparable offense. The only difference is Bo Nix has thrown for about 1,000 yards more. Peyton Manning threw for 9 picks, about 2,700 yards. This year, Bo Nix has thrown for about 3,700 yards and 9 picks.
It's true.
It's a very comparable defense. I think what's being slept on is the fact that we talk so much about Josh Allen and more of the like. But this Denver team is a very solid team all around.
Yeah, the question is, once you're playing cold weather football and there's more pressure on your quarterback, does he stand and deliver, or does he wilt under that pressure? That is the question about Denver.
And
can Bo Nix string together consistent enough performances for them to win playoff football games? I don't know, but we're about to find out. Patriots at Ravens on Sunday Night Football, the final of my 5 Week 16 NFL games that interest me. Man, this is a critical game for Baltimore. They have got to have this. And really for New England, they've kind of got to have it if they're going to win the AFC East, which they are still in pole position to do. Patriots are the number 3 passing offense. The Ravens are the number 17 passing defense. Neither team great in the trenches on that side of the ball. Both of them are 29th in pressure rate. Patriots 29th in pressure rate allowed, Ravens 29th in pressure rate defensively. The Ravens are number 2 in rushing efficiency. The Patriots are number 10 rushing efficiency. The question in this game is, which weakness in the red zone is a bigger weakness? The Patriots have the worst red zone defense in the NFL, allowing a touchdown on 75% of their opponent's red zone drives. The Patriots, 19.7 points per game allowed. This is a little bit complex, but hang with me because I think this is crazy. The Patriots allowed 19.7 points per game. That is the fewest by any team to be that bad in the red zone, allowing 70% touchdowns in the red zone in a season since 2000. This is the best defense to ever have a really bad red zone defense. Well, the Ravens are 31st in red zone offense. They have scored 22 touchdowns on 50 trips to the red zone. Last season, they were the best red zone offense in the NFL. It is unexplainable to me why they have just become so awful in the red zone. When the field gets smaller, Baltimore has typically, with Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, been really dang good. They scored touchdowns 74% of the time inside the 20. If they can get back close to that against a New England defense that is awful in red zone defense, they've got a really good shot. But if they've got the bigger weakness and New England can finally get some stops and hold them to some 3s or 0s in the red zone because the Ravens are so bad in there, I think they win. I think the game totally hinges on that.
Ramon said yesterday that the Ravens are using Derrick Henry more in the second half. You can't do that this game. You have to lean on what your strength is, and then it's going to be a battle of the run games.
I agree. It's either that or Lamar Jackson's got to look a little bit more like 2024 Lamar Jackson.
Or just
and 23
last
Lamar
week
Jackson.
against the Bengals.
Coming up, ESPN's Bill Barnwell ranked the top potential openings in the NFL, the most coveted head coaching openings, and I think it's good news for the Tennessee Titans. I'll tell you why next.
7:02, good morning, live from the Circus Sports at the Mint Kentucky Downs Studios. I'm Justin Hawkins. An overtime thriller for the possible game of the year last night for Thursday Night Football. Down 16 points in the fourth quarter, the Seahawks rallied back to beat the Rams 38-37. In overtime, Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford threw for 457 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 of which went to wide receiver Puka Nacua, who had 12 catches for 225 yards, a career high. Seahawks quarterback Sam Darnold led Seattle's comeback and converted 3 straight 2-point conversions, including the overtime winner, finding Eric Saubert in the end zone. Seattle, with the win, clinches a playoff berth, and now they sit atop the NFC. In other NFL news, last night, the Jaguars and wide receiver Jacoby Myers agreed to a 3-year, $60 million contract extension with $40 million in guarantees. Myers has 27 catches for 355 yards and 3 touchdowns in 6 games with the Jags since being traded from the Raiders back in early November. And the Titans Thursday injury report as they continue to prepare to host Gardner Minshew and the Kansas City Chiefs this Sunday at Nissan Stadium for a noon kickoff. Cedric Gray with a concussion and Amani Hooker with an illness did not practice for a second consecutive day. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, you got to go to USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Away we go into hour number 2, Friday morning, getting started on this cold, festive Friday. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in. You stream the show live on 104.5 The Zone TV, Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitter, or Twitch. Coming up in 15 minutes, our weekly visit with VolQuest's Brent Hubbs. Ron Slay still to come in hour 4. Something about every college football playoff first round game. We'll do a deep dive and I'll give you some picks coming up in hour number 3 as well. Titans injuries yesterday. Just heard some of them from Justin. And who is available, who is potentially not available this upcoming weekend for Titans and Chiefs. Cedric Gray did not practice for the second straight day. Big opportunity for James Williams at inside linebacker next to Cody Barton, which we thought really was going to be the starting linebacker combination at the very beginning of training camp. So big chance for James. Jalen Arbor-Davis limited. Ali Gay limited as he works his way back from IR. Another sick day for Amani Hooker, and Fimio Ladejo limited for a second straight day as he gets closer to a potential return from IR. Gunnar Helm limited for a second straight day on offense. Van Jefferson limited. Dan Moore, full participant for a second straight day, so trending in the right direction. Kevin Zeitler was back out there with a groin injury that he's working his way back from that he suffered in the second half in Santa Clara. And Xavier Estrepo back out there as well. We'll talk about the Chiefs situation, too, because they, again, are the walking wounded on the offensive line. Chiefs have used 11 different offensive line combinations on at least 10 snaps. That is 6th most in the NFL. They got some issues up front that we'll talk about as the show goes on as well. Bill Barnwell at ESPN.com ranked potential most coveted head coach openings in the NFL. He's got 8 of them. He has the Titans right in the middle. Justin, do we want to start at the top with the best openings, or do you want to start at the bottom with the worst openings?
No, let's start at the top. We can keep the local later.
Bill Barnwell thinks that the Cincinnati Bengals are the most coveted head coach opening in the NFL this upcoming offseason. He is assuming that Zach Taylor is out in Cincinnati after this season. Bill and I agree on this. I think Cincinnati, as he lays out well at ESPN.com, needs league average defense and a healthy Joe Burrow, and that is a perennial Super Bowl contender. I think that is a really interesting spot for one of the defensive head coaches at the top of this market. Whether it's Chris Shula, who was the defensive coordinator of the LA Rams in that thriller last night in Seattle, whether that's Chargers defensive coordinator Jesse Minter, whether that's Packers DC Jeff Hafley, who I think is going to be a contender for the New York Giants job as well. He's a Jersey guy. If you turn that defense into league average, the Bengals would be a perennial playoff team, Bill Barnwell writes. mold it into a top 10 defense, and the Bengals would compete for Super Bowls. Bill and I agree. Not going to touch that, not going to have any issues with it. I think Cincinnati pairing up Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, all these things, I think makes a ton of sense as the best head coach opening if it becomes available.
Well, yeah.
Ownership, you've got questions, but they have been more willing to spend money, and they've got the quarterback. And you can work, I think, more with that because from a head coach perspective, you're sitting there looking at that quarterback situation saying, oh, I've got time. I've got time. My success, my job security is not tied to some guy that was just playing college football a few months ago.
My question, I guess the only question, will Zach Taylor be fired? And the other question would be, do you not trust him as a leader of the football team so much that you need to go to the opposite side of the football to lead the team? I mean, of course, they've had defensive issues for years. They're also not paying their players. They didn't even want to pay Trey Hendrickson.
But they did.
They did.
I mean, they have paid their players. That's the point. Like they kept everyone.
But now who can they pay? Because they don't have a lot of money.
We'll see.
So
We'll see.
That's my question. It's the great opening, but will it be an opening?
I think it probably is, with how much that they have underachieved again this season. And I know that the injury to Joe Burrow obviously hurts that. Again, you start to fix that offensive line a little bit more. Maybe we're having a different conversation there as well. But in terms of cap space for this upcoming offseason, they have a ton of money.
Yeah.
They are fourth most, actually, in terms of cap space at $110.7 million, which is another part of what Bill Barnwell
that changes
has written in this piece. That's what I'm saying. I think that's why if that job becomes available, it is the job of this offseason.
Would you want Zach Taylor in Tennessee?
No.
OC?
No. You just hired Brian Callahan. You're not going to go get his old boss, in my opinion.
That's a good point.
Yeah, it's hard to justify, hey, this didn't work. Let's go get the same system and the guy that was in charge of that. I think the good news for the Titans is that there is, to your point, I agree with you, no guarantee that that job comes open. I think the two jobs that Bill Barnwell has ranked ahead of the Titans are comparable. Bill Barnwell has the Arizona Cardinals as the second best job opening. Projected 17th most cap space, 6th most draft capital. His rationale for this is that there are some pretty good parts already in place. You have the quarterback question. Got to go maybe find one. He's actually got Arizona as a potential trade candidate to go up for Fernando Mendoza. And his reasoning is that the Cardinals are 2-7 in one-score games. Dead last in points allowed per possession over their current 6-game losing streak. Where I think that Bill and I differ, I think Bill does an outstanding job writing from a numbers perspective at ESPN.com, is if I'm a prospective head coach, I'm looking at the Rams and Seahawks game last night saying, I want no part of that for 4 games a year. Oh, and then, by the way, here's Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers. I don't want to play those teams 6 times. Now, you can make the argument that Ben Johnson could have said the same thing about the Chicago Bears job. He decided to lean into it and take on the challenge and look at Chicago. They're at the top of the NFC North right now, alongside some really good football teams, including Green Bay, who they'll play this weekend. But I think the division is really tough, and I think that division is better than what the NFC North is. I mean, the NFC West is, to me, the gold standard in pro football right now. Bill Barnwell has Cleveland number 3. Now, again, I think there's more good news for the Titans. I don't think there's a guarantee this job comes open because I think there is backing for Kevin Stefanski there that he has made it work through the Deshaun Watson fiasco. The question again is, who's my quarterback? Of these 3 jobs that Bill Barnwell has ranked ahead of the Titans, Cincinnati, I'll give you. But in Arizona and Cleveland, major quarterback question marks. And Bill Barnwell writes it well and says, Cleveland would love someone to trade for Deshaun Watson and eat any of the remaining $46 million of his contract, but that ship has sailed. Shedeur Sanders has a league worst 16.9 total QBR since taking over at quarterback. You have a lot of draft capital. You have 2 first-round picks, one of them from Jacksonville in the Travis Hunter trade. The problem is you have the 26th most cap space. You have $7.9 million of projected cap space. I don't think the Cleveland job is better than the Titans job.
I mean, it's all tied up to one player.
It is.
Two players.
You are not, you know you're not going to be competitive until 2027.
Yeah.
At the earliest.
Yeah, you got to get
if you take the Cleveland Browns job. And again, the division. You're playing Pittsburgh twice a year. You're playing Baltimore twice a year. Cincinnati. I know that those teams don't look super dangerous right now. But again, Cincinnati gets the right coach in there. Lamar Jackson stays healthy. The Steelers are still a formidable opponent. Then Bill Barnwell has the Titans fourth in this. Says most 2026 cap space with $120.1 million. Fifth most projected 2026 draft capital. Bill Barnwell writes at ESPN.com, when I've talked to people around the league and asked them which team and which quarterback might profile as the 2026 version of the Patriots, the Titans have been the most frequent answer. Cam Ward is last in the league in total QBR, and he has struggled to generate consistent yardage, but there are signs of real promise in the first picks tape. Even if those plays don't always result in catches or conversions, Ward has a live arm, and he's getting to the right answers more often as the season goes along. Of the 11 players who have suited up for at least 45% of the offensive snaps this season in New England alongside Drake May, Bill Barnwell says, 7 of them were brought in via free agency or the draft this offseason. Cam Ward doesn't need to pick the next Titans coach. And to be honest, if you listen to Cam Ward's comments the other day, he doesn't want to either. I think he'd like to be in the meetings. I think he'd like to be a part of the process. Cam Ward is not signing up to pick the next head coach of the Tennessee Titans. But here's the thing Cam Ward is important in this process. He needs to be the selling point. Because right now, when you look at the comparable jobs that are likely going to be open this offseason, you have a name and a face and tape in the NFL to put with the job opening. To just put on a paperclip, right on the folder. You're going to hand these people. You're going to hand these head coach candidates. Arizona doesn't really have that. I think the Kyler Murray area is probably done in Arizona. Cleveland is going to need a new one. He's got the New York Giants as the number 5 job. If Jackson Dart can't scramble because he can't stay healthy, how good is he really? A lot of his big moments have been tough runs, creating things with his legs. I don't know if that's really sustainable. I mean, he's got 24 design runs in his 7 starts before his concussions. He now has 3 designed runs over the 2 starts he's made since then, and now he's got another one. Joe Shane is the GM. You're kind of tied to him. Does that guy have job security? I don't think he does. And then the last 3 jobs on Bill Barnwell's list: 6, the Atlanta Falcons, no cap space, no first-round pick. 7, Miami. Well, you got Tua's contract, and you got the 28th most cap space. And then you have the Raiders, who have been wandering through the wilderness for 40 days and 40 nights in NFL terms. 2nd most cap space, 3rd most draft capital, but just not a good roster. And you've got one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL this year in Geno Smith, and that's a harder contract to get out under. Yep. I think the Titans are looking for a head coach in a pretty good offseason. You are cheering, if you're the Titans, for one of these big jobs, though, to not come open. Sean McDermott, the Bills, if they underachieve. Dan Campbell, the Lions, if they underachieve. John Harbaugh. Mike Tomlin, maybe, but I think you could also maybe lure Mike Tomlin here, which is my dream. I think the good news is you're picking a good time to pick a head coach.
Yep.
Coming up, Brent Hubbs of AllQuest joins us for his weekly visit next. The best financial move you can make this time of year, how about lowering your mortgage rate to 4.99% fixed APR, the lowest rate in years? How about getting up to $500,000 out of your home equity in the process? You can do it now by calling Loan Pronto. Hey, it's Will Bowling. With Loan Pronto's Rapid Equity Loan, you can get a ton of cash, pay off all those high-interest credit cards, and skip up to 2 house payments. One homeowner just got $300,000 approved in under 24 hours. Wiped out their credit cards and 2 car loans and saved $2,100 a month. Don't wait. No hard credit pull up front, and you probably won't even need an appraisal. Just fast, easy cash from your home's equity. Act now. Call 615-499-5780 or visit loanpronto.com. Start the new year by wiping out all higher interest debt and lowering your bills by thousands. Call 615-499-5780 and see how much cash you can get today at loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781. APR for well-qualified buyers. Visit NMLSconsumeraccess.org. Ramona Will, a 104.5 The Zone continues an hour or two on this Friday morning. When you hear the country music on a Friday morning, you know that means Brent Hubbs is here talking Vols with our VolQuest Insider for our Friday visits. Of course, Austin Price on Tuesdays, the very best Tennessee coverage right here on the show. Brent, just me and you again this morning. What's going on?
I'm doing well. How does Ramon already get an off day? I don't understand Ramon's world, but congratulations to Ramon on his new, extension and being a part of this program. Looking forward to continuing to work with you guys, and I certainly wish you guys a very Merry Christmas, and we'll figure out what this Tennessee football team looks like here and what they're going to be like when they come to Nashville in a couple of weeks.
Absolutely. Brent, we had such a long video and photo shoot for Ramon that they're like, you know what? Why don't you take a day? We've taken so much of your time with high school signing day stuff, which I loved, by the way. I'm not complaining. But it's like, you know what? Take a day. You'll be all right.
Yeah. I thought you might have run out of rose petals and balloon arches, but I just wasn't sure.
I love it. Brent, as you look at this Tennessee team heading into the Music City Bowl as they come to town here in a little over a week, what do you think Josh Heupel most wants to get out of this game against Illinois here in Nashville?
Well, I mean, obviously wins are important, but I think what Josh Heupel is looking for is he's looking for the tone, setting a tone heading into the offseason. You know, they're going to return a lot of parts on offense. What do they look like? What does Darius Jackson do with extended opportunities in this game with Chris Brazzell not playing? But you certainly want to set a tone for your offense. There was so much uncertainty about the offense a year ago. You don't want to go into anything, coming out of this game where you don't look at that offense and go, yeah, they should be really productive next year. Even though there's unknowns at the quarterback spot, it's all the other parts that are around them that you want to, you want to end that on a good note and move that forward the right way with the, Mike Matthews, Braylon Staley, and those young tight ends and the returning tailbacks and that returning offensive line or most of it that you're going to have. And then defensively, I think you're just trying to do the best you can, and obviously what's a unique situation, and then you're flushing everything defensively, as soon as that game is over, basically, the next day. I mean, whatever your staff's going to look like is going to be assembled very quickly, and then what you got to go get done in the portal has got to be the forefront, because they've obviously got to go find help in numbers in the defensive portal, whether it's secondary, which is going to be a priority, up front on the defensive line as well. So it's a little different feeling on both sides of the ball when you talk about where they're at, what they're trying to get done, and then what they're looking at moving forward.
Brent, do you get the sense that we are any closer to a decision from Lance Hurd on his NFL draft status, and do you expect him to play in the Music City Bowl?
I do expect him to play. He's going through everything. I think he is planning on playing and will play. I think he's still waiting on some feedback from the NFL, but I think he's wanting to keep all of his options open. What does he feel like he can do in terms of improving his stock if he's another year in college football? Where does he think he would be drafted now if he came out now? What does the NFL tell him he needs to work on? He likes it at Tennessee. Obviously, this year has been much better than a year ago. I think what's interesting with Tennessee is where are they at the tackle position? Is this a situation where, you look at him and say, man, we should put all this back together and, somebody's got to play right tackle because David Sanders certainly wants to play left. He's a left tackle. Lance Hurd's a left tackle. Who would be willing to play right tackle? And then from a financial standpoint, do you feel like you can be just as effective on your offensive line if Lance Hurd were to go somewhere else and you save money doing that way? I mean, those are the CEO decisions that football coaches in the college level are having to make now, which they've never had to make before. I mean, those are things that obviously will be a discussion point, I'm sure, with Lance Hurd and his agent whenever he gets to the point of making a decision about the NFL. And then if it's not the NFL, what his decision will be about where he plays college football moving forward.
Brent, I think the running back position for Tennessee in 2026 is really interesting. And I think when you look at, obviously, the high-profile recruitment of a five-star in Savion Hyder that didn't go your way, he goes to Michigan, you look at maybe an opportunity there to add to a room that's already full, Brent, but maybe try to find, whether it's in the portal, or I guess it would have to be in the portal, obviously, for this point for 26, but in the portal, that 1 or 2 year guy. And David Gabriel George has become a famous Tennessee high school football player, and for good reason. And I think, obviously, Tennessee's in that recruitment, Brent, as we've talked about. But do you see Tennessee trying to use some of that Savion Hyder money potentially? I know it's not 1-to-1 where you don't get one guy and then you just go spend it on another running back, but where is running back at your list of priorities, Brent, with already a full room but maybe a chance to take it to the next step?
Well, I think it depends on where you feel like Peyton Lewis is in terms of what he can do for you. Where do you feel like, DeJuan Morris is? And, Justin Baker, do you feel like you need an experienced guy there? Or do you feel okay with what you have? Star Thomas is a guy they brought in, and Star Thomas made an early impact, and then his impact sort of went away as the season went along. He didn't play a whole lot and wasn't as big of a factor in terms of volume of carries and things like that. I don't think you go after a running back unless it's a 1 year guy, because I think you feel like, Gabe Georges is a guy that is can step in and play early as a freshman. But, the problem with the running back position is how much is it going to cost you? And what are you willing to invest in that position? Do you go get a lower level guy that you can get a little bit cheaper? Or, if you go get somebody out of the Power 4 ranks, that guy's going to ask for a lot of money. Do you really want to bring in a guy to be your highest paid guy in the room and he's not going to be the starter? Where's the value? What's the value, I guess, that you're putting in that position? Is that a necessity need or is that a luxury need? And then how do you how do you decide financially what that looks like?
Brent Hubbs of VolQuest on 3, our guest, as he is every Friday at 7:20. Brent, this whole quarterback domino thing all around the country is fascinating to me, that we can have a portal that is still weeks from opening, yet we have teams to watch for all of these guys, right? And surely they're not talking to anybody at these universities, or at least they're intermediaries, or someone is talking to a cousin or a support staffer and all these things in what is certainly the wild, wild west. I'm curious, Brent, what the fit looks like. Like when Josh Heupel is looking at the portal, not even thinking of any of these guys specifically, but just what do you think the qualities are that are going to be most important to him? Because Nico Iamaleava was quote unquote more talented than Joey Aguilar. Joey Aguilar was much better within this offense in 2025 than Nico was in 2024. What do you think Josh Heupel is going to value as he does look at portal options?
Well, I think what Josh Heupel is trying to value right now is what gives me the best opportunity to win in 2026. Is that George McIntyre and, Faison Brandon, and then we go get a guy who would be more of a depth piece? Okay. Do I feel like George is not ready mentally and physically, and we need to go get somebody who could step in and be a starter? Okay, if I'm choosing that adventure, to borrow the old, Scholastic School bookstore line when you go pick those out in your book shopping in elementary school, if I choose that adventure, then where's my budget? Okay, what's realistic? Who's the guy who can come in and I find him to be, when I visit with him, he would be very adaptable to our system, quick learner, can pick it up and go. Does he have experience in some of the things we like to do? Is he athletic? Can he run? Is there a quarterback run game element to him? All of those things. Is he the right culture fit? And then is his value so much to us that we have to maybe pay more than we would like to pay for that position, and we're willing to sacrifice something at another position in the transfer portal? That you say, okay, we're gonna really pay hard for this guy in the portal, this quarterback, whoever it might be, and that guy's going to cost $3 or $4 million. Okay, well, if we're going to go to that level, then maybe we take one less defensive lineman, or maybe we don't go get a running back, or maybe you can't go get a fifth defensive back or whatever your number is in the portal. So you got to factor that into the equation as well. So there's a lot of things, and I know fans, and I understand fans, they just want to know when they see somebody go in the portal, is Tennessee interested in? Does Tennessee want that guy? Does Tennessee want this guy? Would they be interested in this guy? The answer is maybe yes, and then when they have a conversation with him, or that guy his agent presents an offer sheet, then you go, no, we're not necessarily interested there because that's more than we want to stay because we have other holes we have to fill. You know, there's a cap that's not really a cap, but there is at the end of the day a limitation on some of that money. So how much do you want to get into a bidding war with somebody? And then again, I go back to where do you think George McIntyre is in terms of being able to run this team and be able to go win? Okay. Here's the other layer to this challenge, and I'm actually writing about this later, this thing later today. Does the value of having a veteran guy is it enhanced when you look at the fact that next year in week 4 in your first SEC game you're going against Will Muschamp,
right?
And then the following week it's DJ Durkin, and then you get into November and you got the guy at LSU, and then obviously we saw what Vanderbilt's defense was able to do to Tennessee's offense. You know, you start to look at those people who are you're going against because this league is doing a course correction. For several years here, it was all about the offenses. All about the offenses. You're paying offensive coordinators big money, and they're going out and they're doing all these things. Well, now look where they're spending their money. They're spending more money on the defensive side of the ball with coordinators than they are on the offensive side of the ball. There will be more coordinators in the SEC on the defensive side of the ball making over $2 million next year than there will be offensive coordinators.
Wow.
And so there's a bit of a course correction because here's what everybody in this league understands. You're not going to play 48, 45 games. This isn't the American Athletic Conference. There's too many good athletes on defense. Challenges of offenses. You're not going to let offenses go up and down the field on you. You're going to have to be able to play defense. I mean, Texas made a move yesterday. They've been a really solid to good defensive team the last 4 or 5 years. And Sarkisian said it's not good enough. We're going to go get somebody. We're going to go get a guy who's a more proven commodity in Will Muschamp. I mean, LSU paid enough money to keep their defensive coordinator to keep him from being the head coach at Tulane. Mike Elko at Texas A&M is a defensive-minded head coach. His co-coordinator just got hired at Kentucky. Clayton White, who's at South Carolina, is making, big money, and he's the guy who was courted by some schools during this last window here. So there's a real push in this league, it appears, to play better defense because of the challenges that offense presents, and there's a real investment on that side of the ball financially with staff members.
Brent, to that point, too, with George McIntyre and going through bowl prep and now with Jake Berklinger away from the team and expected into the portal, how much can George impact this quarterback decision with the next week and a half? How important is this stretch for him getting opportunities with the 2s versus the 3s in practice this week?
Well, he's just going to get more opportunities to throw the ball, to run plays. Right. So, I mean, it doesn't hurt. I mean, I don't know that you're going to sit here and look at 4 practices and go, okay, that's what we're doing. I think your decision is based on the last year with George and what he's done for you in the program. But, yeah, I mean, it doesn't hurt that he's going to get all of the second-team reps, and quite frankly, he'll probably get some first-team reps because you know what Joey Aguilar can do. So he's going to get more reps this week in Knoxville and through the weekend here, and then they'll break for Christmas on Monday afternoon. Now, when they get to Nashville, it'll be a little more 1s and 2s because you're in a true game plan and you're putting your plan in and you're in a true game week mode. But right now you're trying to see what all those young guys can do, and George's going to get as many reps as he wants, I would think, right now. And he doesn't, if he performs well, it doesn't hurt his instilling of belief in terms of being ready for Josh Heupel and that offensive staff. But it'll be an interesting next few weeks and kind of where the options are, what options they try to choose at the quarterback position.
Brent, on the way out, one question for you on hoops with Tennessee getting off the bat and breaking a 3-game losing streak against Louisville earlier this week. What impressed you most about the way Rick Barnes' team was able to kind of take their little mini training camp, week and a half break, and come out of that with a win over the Cardinals this week?
Well, they got back to what he wanted them to do. They communicated. They were locked in. They were ready to play. They did the things they needed to do on defense and played the way they needed to play on defense. They communicated well on that end of the floor. The ball didn't get stuck offensively. I mean, everybody you talked to in that program and around that program said it was not a lot of fun leading up to that Louisville game. It was a rough week. There was some soul searching, kind of what do you want to be? What do you want to make this? What do you want to take from this? We've got to understand what you have to do every night to get ready to play. And Rick Barnes is certainly hopeful that the lesson was learned and this team went out and executed, and they will continue to prepare that way. And that's the challenge for this team with all the new parts. Rick Barnes said it in the locker room after the game. Hey, the train is rolling. How well is it rolling? Well, we'll see. Can they build and back that performance up, playing the right way the next two games against inferior opponents before they head into SEC play? It was a needed win against a good team because they needed to sort of plant their flag and everybody understand what it takes every night to go play. We'll see if they learned that lesson.
Brent Hubbs of VolQuest at On3, Fridays at 7:20 here on the show. The very best out of Knoxville, VolQuest.com. Great subscription for you. Great for a Christmas gift, I would imagine, this time of year. Brent, we always appreciate you. Thank you as always for the time. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, thanks. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Brent Hubbs of VolQuest with us this morning, presented by Ascend Federal Credit Union, financial partner for every stage of life. All right, wrapping up the first half of the show. When we come back, and Brent touched on it, the major move in college football yesterday that I think is significant and teaches us another lesson about the current state of college athletics. We'll talk about it next. Roberto Willow, 104.5 The Zone, wrapping up the first half of your Friday morning. Reacting more to last night's classic, Rams and Seahawks. If you missed that at the start of the show, we'll do it again in 15 minutes. Plus, one thing on every college football playoff first-round game. I'm going to give you every team's chance and path to win, how they would do it, including my Dukes of James Madison in Autzen Stadium against Oregon. Have you seen, by the way, the social media stuff of JMU Twitter, Justin?
No, I have not.
And I say this not as someone who is obviously, as I've established many times, marrying a JMU alumna in News 2's Peyton Kennedy. But this has become like a viral thing. There's this account, JMU Sports News, that is hilarious. Hilarious. Like, they're tweeting out, like, slow motion videos of Oregon highlights being like, wow, I thought they had some faster athletes than this. If they move like this, the Dukes will win by 20. It's very funny. So yesterday, their most recent tweet was fantastic. It was a video of JMU football getting in buses, and it just said, JMU football is off to Oregon, leaving Harrisonburg. And they tweeted, to clarify for the dense people, the reply is, no, JMU is not busing to Oregon. The Dukes bus to an off-campus location where each player picks up a Lime scooter. Then they travel as a pack via scooter with the linemen at the front and back to fend off wild animals.
Wild.
They're just there for the vibes. Just there for the ultimate happy to be here team. Listen, if you're angry that JMU and Tulane are in the college football playoff, don't take it out on them. They're happy. They're living their best lives. It's going to change soon. Just sit and watch the football. It's going to be fine. It's going to be just fine.
How much good football will be played, though?
At least 2 games.
Yeah, right.
Hopefully.
I mean, these will.
Maybe just 1. I don't know.
Which game is more of a blowout, Ole Miss Tulane or Oregon JMU?
I think Ole Miss Tulane. I think it's a bad matchup for Tulane,
Really?
which we'll get more into in the third hour. It's a tease right there, Justin.
JMU is a little bit of a speedy team, correct? Like they play fast?
No, they're just really good defensively.
Okay.
JMU's got a really good defense.
I watched a
for
little bit of
G5
their
team.
conference championship game.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't very impressed, to be honest with you.
It's cold.
That's
I don't
true.
know. It's just
Wow.
it,
You think it's going to get better in Oregon?
No, it's not. It's not. But they are a defensive team. They're a defensive team, not a good passing team. Alonzo Burnett is a good athlete. They are very explosive, but they don't string together a whole lot of drives. We'll talk about it. We'll do that in about a half hour. Will Muschamp is headed back to Texas. It's a rare moment where a team fired and hired someone at the same time. And Steve Sarkisian is making power moves. So Pete Kwiatkowski and passing game coordinator Dwayne Akins are out, and Will Muschamp is back in. Kwiatkowski had elite defenses in 23 and 24. Yet this season, Texas was number 101 in passing yards per game allowed after ranking 7th in that in 2024. Andrew Bakuba, Jade Barron, Michael Taaffe, Taff, however you say it, the secondary Texas had in 2024, elite. 2025, nowhere close. 49th in passing efficiency defensively after finishing 2nd in that category in 2024. The Longhorns were 9th in total defense and 5th in yards per play allowed. The lesson here, guys, don't have one bad year, especially if you're a defensive coordinator right now. And Brent Hubbs just laid this out perfectly, and I wonder if he had access to our Google Doc, Justin, because this was our exact topic we were going to do next. This is where the SEC is now overcorrecting, and Brent is 100% right. This pendulum never stops in the middle. And when the Lane Kiffins, Josh Heupels, the Alex Golishes now at Auburn, the offensive coaches that are at the top of this conference right now that are in playoff contention year after year, Jerry Kill, Tim Beck, Diego Pavia, Vanderbilt within that. Steve Sarkisian being an offensive-minded head coach in where he is. With the quarterback play, with the offensive minds that are in this conference, You can't afford to be a defensive coordinator and have a bad year, which is also tough because no one is as deep as they used to be. During Will Muschamp's time at Georgia, the Bulldogs were 1st, 5th, 23rd, and 11th in the country in scoring defense. They were putting out pros every single year in his time there. Steve Sarkisian, reportedly as well, tried to hire Will Muschamp as his first defensive coordinator in 2021. He slid into an analyst role on Kirby Smart's staff for the past 2 seasons, now is back at Texas, where, of course, he has been on staff as an assistant and as a head coach. In his time at Texas, the Longhorns had one of the best defenses in the country. Led the country in sacks with 119 in his time in Austin. Finished top 10 nationally in run defense, 2.9 yards per carry. They were third. 96 rushing yards per game, fourth. Total defense, seventh. All of them best in the Big 12. I think what this means for Tennessee is that, again, you have to match the level of desperation that your 2026 opponents have. This is a bold move by Steve Sarkisian, but it is one that I think at its worst, if this doesn't go well for Will Muschamp, I think you're at least as good as you were defensively this year. I think the floor is probably realistically that you are back in the top half of the SEC defensively. Now, granted, you were 9th in the SEC, 16 teams, 8th obviously would be average. For the level of athlete that Texas is recruiting, your expectation is never to be average at the University of Texas. So I think that's where, for Tennessee, for the quarterback decision that they've got to make, for the big call that Josh Heupel has got to make between George McIntyre, Faison Brandon, maybe Joey Aguilar getting another year of eligibility. If I'm Josh Heupel, I'm not counting on that. I've got to move on based on the timeline of when he's going to hear back from the NCAA's whole process within that. I think it is becoming more and more likely that Tennessee finds a starting quarterback in the transfer portal. And I think the schedule, the big moves that some of these teams have made, I mean, you look at the defensive coaches and defensive coordinators that you've got to see in 2026, including DJ Durkin at Auburn, including, of course, Clark Lee at Vanderbilt, including now Will Muschamp at Texas, Blake Baker, who's going to stay at LSU, Kane Womack, who you would expect to still be there in Alabama. I know Bama fans are kind of split on him, but there is a lot of pressure on Josh Heupel in 2026, and you have got to rip off the bandage and make a hard call for the betterment of the 2026 Tennessee Volunteers. You can't think too much about 27 and 28 and who you can keep on the roster. I think Josh Heupel's got to be a little bit more ruthless in replacing players and people that he probably really likes, that he's recruited out of high school, to go find veterans who he's confident in can be immediate impact players in 2026.
I think that's what the Adidas sponsorship now helps in that factor, is finding those types of players. Because
maybe.
What was it, $20 million? Something like that they're giving. Those things are going to help really much in the transfer portal.
Coming up, Thursday night football reaction. Seattle and LA played a classic last night. What did Sam Darnold prove in a win where he still had some big mistakes? We'll talk about that next. Hey, what's up? It's Will Bowling. I want to update you on what this holiday season can mean for your family members at Brentwood Hearing Center. It means that maybe you've got an opportunity over these next couple of weeks to try to address some hearing challenges. Think of that one family member you've been trying to convince to take care of their hearing. You got a name? Yeah, I'm sure you do. I'm sure we all do. And during the holiday season, we're spending a lot of time in crowded rooms, whether it's the company Christmas party. Maybe you're thinking of that family gathering. Maybe your mind's going back to Thanksgiving, of the one relative that just cannot hear as well as they used to. Brentwood Hearing Center has the best technology on the market, and they've got technology dedicated to helping patients hear well in situations where there is background noise. Brentwood Hearing Center's doctors of audiology will sit down with you. They'll understand where you are having trouble hearing, whether it's at work, whether it's been at that company holiday party, and they're going to get you off the sidelines and back in the game. They understand there is no cookie-cutter approach to better hearing. You need a doctor of audiology to sit down with you and give you the best possible hearing solution. Call Brentwood Hearing Center at 615-377-0420. Whether it's for you, whether it's for that family member who is in town for the holidays, they're conveniently located right off the Brentwood Old Hickory exit on I-65. You can check them out online as well at BrentwoodHearingCenter.com. That's 615-377-0420. Brentwood Hearing Center. Better hearing, better life.
8:02, good morning, live from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I'm Justin Hawkins. An overtime thriller for Thursday Night Football last night as the Seahawks, down 16 points in the fourth quarter, rallied back to beat the Rams 38-37 in overtime. Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford threw for 457 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 of which went to wide receiver Puka Nacua with 12 catches for 225 yards, which was a career high for him. Seahawks quarterback Sam Darnold led Seattle's comeback and converted 3 straight 2-point conversions, including the overtime winner, finding Eric Saubert in the end zone. Seattle clinched a playoff berth and now sits atop the NFC after the win. Another NFL news, yesterday the Jaguars and wide receiver Jacoby Myers agreed to a 3-year, $60 million contract extension with $40 million in guaranteed money. Myers has 27 catches for 355 yards and 3 touchdowns in 6 games since joining the Jags after being traded from the Raiders back in early November. And the Titans Thursday injury report as they continue to prepare to host the Kansas City Chiefs this Sunday at Nissan Stadium for a noon kickoff. Cedric Gray with a concussion and Amani Hooker with an illness both did not practice for a second straight day. Kevin Zeitler with a groin injury and Van Jefferson with a back injury both returned and both were limited in practice yesterday. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, you got to go to USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Second half of the show and hour number 3 on your Friday morning, Ramon and Will. Thankful you decided to spend part of your Friday morning commute with us, whether you are commuting from the bedroom to the home office or living room, or from one of the surrounding areas downtown or vice versa. We appreciate you making us a part of your day. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in. And we stream the show live for you. Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitter, or Twitch. Justin Hawkins had the controls. Myself, Will Bowling with you. Ron Slay going to join us at 9:20. Ramon Foster has the day off and will be back with us on Monday. What a game last night. 38-37. Seattle Seahawks over the Los Angeles Rams, erasing a 16-point fourth quarter deficit to win this game and proving very little to me, Justin, versus kind of what we already knew. Since 1975, this was crazy. I saw this from an NFL researcher in Dante Fleming put this on Twitter. Since 1975, teams with 400-plus yards, 0 giveaways, 0 sacks taken, and 3+ takeaways were 79-0. They are now 79-1 since 1975. I mean, this isn't even one of those stats that starts in 2000. We live in an era of NFL football. We've got a lot of new ways to evaluate things. Very rarely do you get something that has not happened since 1975. It's exactly what happened last night. Matthew Stafford was fantastic, over 400 yards, no giveaways, no sacks. They took it away 3 times, and they lost the football game. This is not a sustainable way to win a game of tackle football. However, it does prove something to me, Justin. The Seahawks are capable of beating anyone in football, even when Sam Darnold doesn't have his A game.
Yep.
The question I have is he the kind of quarterback? Is he capable of leading Seattle to a Super Bowl? I feel like I got no more answers on that last night, and I expected to have some sort of clarity. Do you feel any differently about Sam Darnold's ability to lead Seattle to a Super Bowl based on last night's win?
No, not necessarily. He did this last year. You got to prove it in the playoffs. Don't be one and done. You had a very great season with Minnesota. You lost in the first round. Or, well, I guess it was the divisional round. Don't do that this year. If you're the number 1 seed, you got to prove it. The Rams, with Matthew Stafford, has proven it. Sam Darnold has proven it. I'll give you another stat. The Seahawks PR put this out last night. In their history, Seattle has been 0-172.
Wow.
That is a huge game. And when they're trailing 15-plus points in the fourth quarter, they are now 1-172.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So, like, these two stats, that one that you gave out and the one that I just gave out, that's a lot of football.
Yeah, it is.
And now these things are rewriting their history. It doesn't matter if you don't prove it in the playoffs. But I think, like we talked about earlier, is what's beneficial for Seattle is the 12th man. If you get the home field advantage in the playoffs, that's a factor. Sam Darnold just got to prove it in the playoffs. Matthew Stafford can do it. What can Sam Darnold do?
Well, and I think, too, when you look at the way he finished the game and played in overtime, yes, Seattle won in spite of Sam Darnold. He also made some high-level throws in overtime.
That was a playoff game.
100%. 100%. And I think it's a really big deal that the NFC probably goes through Seattle at this point. So Mina Kimes at ESPN is a Seahawks fan and talked a lot about this. And she mentioned on her podcast, she tweeted last night, she said, the rate of disguised coverage Darnold has seen has doubled since week 11. Looks like he doesn't trust what he's seeing downfield. Simulated pressures have been giving him issues since the end of last season. The same problems are cropping up. That was kind of the thing they were getting him on. The pre-snap look was different from what was happening post-snap, and they were constantly getting him to go to his predetermined first read and tricking him. And that's kind of the thing with Sam Darnold, even going back to when he was with the Jets and talked about seeing ghosts. Like, it's kind of his thing. Now, granted, a good defensive coordinator is going to get even the best quarterbacks changing post-snap what they are showing pre-snap. It's one thing I think Brian Callahan was always right on talking about. Like, the good quarterbacks are going to have some interceptions. You're not being aggressive enough if you're just never throwing any picks, right? Like, it's kind of a byproduct of trying to push the ball downfield and trying to make some high-level throws. And that's what Sam Darnold did in overtime. Next Gen Stats says 4 of Darnold's 5 throws with the lowest completion probability were on the overtime drive. So of the 5 throws that he had that had the least amount of chance to be completed, he completed 4 of those in the entire game on the overtime drive. He made the plays when he needed to. I think the Seahawks could absolutely win a Super Bowl with Sam Darnold at quarterback. I still see some yellow and red flags in the way that I think he makes up his mind pre-snap on where he's going to go once the ball is snapped, and I think that is a worry for Sam Darnold. But if you can win a game like this with 3 2-point conversions that were successful, with a 16-point deficit in the fourth quarter, with losing the turnover battle by 3 on 2 interceptions and a fumble, play the kind of red zone defense that you did, get pressure on a really good quarterback the way that you did, you could do anything. Yes, I come out of this game still feeling confident that the Rams are the best team in the NFL, but that pathway for them just got a lot tougher. Considering Seattle won this game, gave themselves the inside track with just a couple games left for the number 1 seed, and now they've got to go probably, if they meet again in the NFC Championship game, or even in the divisional round, because if it's chalk and LA is the 5 seed and you're playing the 4 seed, you're playing the worst division winner and you win, well, who are you going to play in the divisional round? That team.
Exactly.
Like, that's the struggle now for LA, is that in a very win-now season, all of a sudden the pressure's on. And all of a sudden, if the top 3 seeds all win, and you've got the 2 seed versus the 3, which you would imagine is, what, Green Bay against Philadelphia? The 2 and the 3 seeds?
Yeah.
It's kind of what you're looking at. So you're looking at a trip to the NFC South team, if you're LA, which that's a long way to go. Telling you. Things got a little dicey last night for the Rams, even though I feel better the fact that they are the best team in the league. And now they've got to probably go in the first round to either Carolina or Tampa, which you'd feel good about. But again, that's a long way to go. It's not a gimme by any stretch of the imagination. And then the worst case scenario is you've got to go to Seattle in the semifinal round, in the divisional round, with the chalk on the other side being NFC North versus NFC East winner, which is going to be Philadelphia versus probably Green Bay.
What's interesting is, so they played both. They played the NFC South, right? So they beat Tampa by a lot. Then they lose to Carolina. So they could play one of those two teams. Of course, you like the Rams to be favored in that one.
Mm-hmm.
But for Sam Darnold, you go from Justin Jefferson in Minnesota to Jackson Smith and Jigba. Man, how lucky can you be?
He's got it pretty good in that.
Yeah.
And Clint Kubiak from Kevin O'Connell.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Let's go to the phones. Dustin is in Baxter. Wants to talk about Tennessee quarterback options off of our conversation about that a few minutes ago. What's up, Dustin?
Not much. Just want to wish y'all a happy holidays right off the bat.
Thank you. You too.
I know that Joey Aguilar obviously has put himself into the Pavia lawsuit to gain an extra year, which I think is kind of depending on. Unfortunately, they don't give you a timetable. They just kind of decide when they want to. So my question is I know they have been talking about Brandon Sorsby's family lives there in Knoxville. So my question is do you go and spend the money between the Adidas deal and the money you have from boosters and the budget and do a 1-year rental on Brandon Sorsby, who can definitely run the run-pass option, has been did pretty well at Cincinnati, and maybe tell Faison Brandon, hey, get ready. This is only temporary to kind of get you ready, and just kind of did what we did with Joey this last year, and because he's been proven he can play at Cincinnati, and just run with it. And just want to get your opinion, and I'll get off.
Thank you, Dustin. Appreciate the call. It's a big question. It is the question surrounding Tennessee football. If the price is right on Brendan Sorsby, yes, I would do that. I don't think that, and I don't know this, but I don't think George McIntyre would transfer out if you got a veteran transfer quarterback to come in. Unfortunately, I think that's a risk that Josh Heupel might have to take if the right option is interested in playing ball. Now, the price being right conversation is interesting because, again, like, who can Indiana get? Who can LSU get? Who does Texas Tech get? I'm not sure I want Tennessee bidding in the Texas Tech, LSU, Indiana tier of quarterbacks, because I think Josh Heupel can do more with a more unproven quarterback than most other coaches in college football. I would rather reinvest that money into the defense and into safety and corner and edge rusher and inside linebacker with Arion Carter out. Do you feel like you need to go get a left tackle? Right? I mean, right tackle. I mean, David Sanders, you feel like is probably your left tackle next year. But if Lance Hurd goes on to the NFL, I think that decision is really important for Tennessee. If you have to go get a tackle in the transfer portal, those aren't cheap, to come in and start as another 1-year rental at a very premium position, I think that might impact what you do at quarterback, to be quite honest with you. Not a total 1-to-1. It's either one or the other. But are you a little less inclined to overspend on quarterback in order to be forced to overspend a little bit at tackle? What are your priorities? I don't have the answer to that. Dustin, to your question, I tend to believe that Tennessee is going to be in the second tier of quarterback transfer portal contracts. And what that probably looks like is about $3 to $4 million, which this season was really the top tier. I think we're going to see $6 to $8 million at the top end of this. As many teams and coaches at big-time programs have openings, have pressure, and have money under first-year head coaches, I think the quarterback market is going to be stupid, and I think Josh Heupel's got to be really careful to not overspend. Because ultimately, you've got to decide what is best for my football team. Is it better to be a little bit more unproven, a little bit worse at quarterback, and then load up on defense, which I think is a perfectly fine way to do this? Or is Brendan Sorsby, because he's got family in Knoxville, willing to give you a little bit of a hometown discount? That, to me, is why If this guy has any allegiance to Tennessee and likes Tennessee and wants to be around family, can you recruit and pull on the heartstrings a little bit? That's where I think that might make a lot of sense. Could you get someone to say, you know what? I don't need the stupid money. In the same way kind of that Chaz Lanier went to Tennessee and turned down what we know were bigger NIL offers to go to places like BYU and Kentucky. That's where Tennessee's got to be. Can you get somebody who wants the system, wants the Heupel coaching, wants to be evolved, wants the SEC, and says, nah, I'm good to the check? That's, I think, the best case scenario for Tennessee football, and in keeping Faison Brandon and George McIntyre in the process. Going to preview 4 college football playoff games coming up next. We got one tonight. Alabama, Oklahoma, Miami, Texas A&M. We've got Ole Miss, Tulane rematch, which I think is going to be closer than the last one, even though I don't think it's going to be a close game. My Dukes of JMU taking on Oregon. We'll give you every team's pathway to pulling off a victory coming up next. Ramona Willow, 104.5, The Zone. Hour 3 continues on this Friday morning. Ron Slay coming up for his weekly visit in Hour 4. Your phone calls at 615-737-1045. Tonight, the first round of the college football playoff begins. Alabama goes to Oklahoma. I imagine they're already there. I would hope so, obviously. Alabama has gone to Oklahoma. Tonight, they will play a football game. 7 p.m., ABC. I'm really excited for this game, and I have no idea what's going to happen, Justin. Truly no clue. Oklahoma upset Alabama 23-21 despite being outgained by 194 yards. Per Bill Connolly of ESPN.com, in post-game win expectancy, this was the 5th most improbable win in college football in 2025. So what Bill does is he takes, and we'll use a lot of Bill stuff through this breakdown of how each team wins in the first round of the college football playoff, yes, including JMU and Tulane. We'll do that as well. He takes the way the game went, the stats, the plays, all of it, and gives you a percentage chance, saying, hey, this team, in doing all these things they did in this game, wins the game this percent amount of the time. Have you seen this stat, Justin, and how many of the times Oklahoma would have won doing this?
No, I haven't.
They have a 5% chance to win the game with how they played against Alabama. 5th lowest post-game win expectancy in a game in 2025. Alabama is fine on offense. You look at the stats over the course of the entire body of work, they were great. But those stats are not necessarily predictive of who they are right now. Oklahoma, not great offensively. 93rd in yards per play. They're fine passing, but rushing the football, 108th in yards per carry. Alabama, not much better. Neither of these teams can run the football. They just so happen to be playing each other. How does Alabama beat Oklahoma? Alabama beats Oklahoma if September Ty Simpson decides to re-enter the chat. Against Wisconsin, Georgia, Vandy, Missouri, and Tennessee, Ty Simpson completed 71.5% of his passes for 1,451 yards, 13 touchdowns, and 1 interception. He also ran for a touchdown through 9.2 yards per attempt. He was 5-0. Alabama was 5-0 in those games. Bill Connolly, with some of the analytics, has this. A little bit of a smaller sample size at the back end. Ty Simpson in his first 10 games has an 80.6 total QBR, 67% completion rate, 7.4 yards per drop back. His catchable pass rate, Ty Simpson, in the first 10 games of the season, was 81.1%. In the last 2 games, that number drops by 11%. 70% of his passes were catchable. 3.7 yards per drop back. That number is half of what it was for the first 10 games of the year. He only completed 51% of his passes with a 55.1 total QBR. The good news is those were against really good defenses. Auburn is excellent defensively. So is Georgia. The bad news is so is Oklahoma. Now, if Jim Miller is healthy, maybe Alabama's run game is marginally better. We'll see what he's able to give Alabama tonight. Alabama ran for over 100 yards in 4 of those 5 games that we mentioned, where Ty Simpson played really well in the month of September. Wisconsin, Georgia, Vandy, Missouri, and Tennessee. They threw for 382 in that Wisconsin game, the one they didn't run for 100, and gave Ty Simpson time to throw. So I think this game, when you look at Alabama offensively, Ty Simpson moved the ball on Oklahoma the first time. They just had 3 turnovers. In their last 2 games against Oklahoma, going back to last year's game in Norman with Jalen Milroe, they also had 3 turnovers. It's odd because Alabama is +7 in turnover margin this year. That's 26th in FBS. Oklahoma is -2, 80th in FBS. The question I have, and this is how Oklahoma wins, what are you asking John Mateer to do? Are you asking him as his hand gets maybe a little bit healthier, he gets a little bit further away from the surgery, he doesn't have that wrap around his hand at this point, are you still asking John Mateer to just manage the game? You win the turnover battle? I think a lot of this for Oklahoma has to do with how do you start the game? Oklahoma, if they have to play from behind, are not the best version of themselves. Either their defense creates the same turnovers that they have now in back-to-back games against Alabama, or John Mateer looks like September John Mateer pre-surgery. In the 7 games since his hand surgery, John Mateer has completed 59% of his passes. A little over 1,300 yards, 6.3 yards per attempt, 6 touchdowns to 7 interceptions, and that is the number 100 rushing offense in the country in terms of yards per game. If John Mateer feels better, feels like himself, can play like himself in that Ben Arbuckle offense, do they take the risk in opening up the offense, asking him to do a little bit more, maybe putting the ball in harm's way and allowing Alabama to potentially flip the script? I think the first half of this game is critical for Oklahoma. I think they have to play with a lead to have success in this one. 212 total yards is what Oklahoma had against Alabama in the first matchup. They either have to be more productive offensively, hit more explosives, and be more expansive on offense, or they've got to force those same turnovers again. I'm not betting on that to happen again. I think Alabama wins this game tonight. I think that they are the better football team. I think that Kalen DeBoer in a spot like this is really good. Really, really good. Alabama's problem is not when they are doubted. And I think Alabama is being doubted. Not necessarily by odds makers. Oklahoma opened up as the favorite. That line immediately swung towards Alabama. Alabama is pretty good in spots like this. And Kalen DeBoer teams, you look at the way he made that playoff run to the national championship, beating Oregon multiple times his last season at Washington. In those games where he was a slight underdog or it's a toss-up, in the games where he's played Georgia, albeit taking away the SEC championship game that just happened, he's done his best work, and I think he's going to again here. I think Kalen DeBoer has them ready to play. I think Ty Simpson makes enough throws. I just think it's a really high bar for that Oklahoma defense to play to continue to force that amount of turnovers when the entire body of work tells me over the entire season that Oklahoma at -2 and 80th in FBS and turnover margin isn't really that kind of team. I think Ty Simpson meets the moment and makes enough plays. What do you think?
If John Mateer is not how he was at the beginning of the season, like if you get a Michigan game out of John Mateer, Oklahoma is going to have a really good fight there. But also, if you get a September version of Ty Simpson, you're going to have a very good matchup all around. R. Mason Thomas looks like he's coming back for Oklahoma, so that's a good sign for them, for their defense and the rushing game. I agree with you that this has got to be Alabama's game. You got to play like that September. You got to play like the Georgia win. It's going to come down to what can John Mateer do in this offense, because he's always asked for too much. He always does too much with his legs. You got to have that Michigan game where you throw into Deion Burks for over 100 yards and a touchdown. That's what you got to get. They just don't do it consistently enough. This is Alabama's game. They're the postseason team. That's what they are.
They are, and Oklahoma's not been in this spot under Brent Venables. Does the experience at a spot like this for Kalen DeBoer, for Alabama, matter? We'll see. Obviously, they weren't in it last year. That experience for Kalen DeBoer is more at Washington in a smaller playoff, obviously, when they made the national title in a 14 playoff. Both of these offenses just force their quarterbacks to do so much. And in a game like that, whichever one takes care of the ball better and can convert on 3rd and 4th and long, or 3rd and manageable, I think wins the game. Similar breakdown in Miami versus Texas A&M, but for different reasons. Saturday at 11 a.m., very excited for this game. Very excited for this game. Top 40 rushing attack, top 30 passing game for A&M. They can do both. They can run and throw. Miami, balanced. The reason why quarterbacks are being asked to do a lot in this game is because both run defenses are really, really good. The battle between Francis Mauigoa and Cassius Howell is one you are going to see at the next level in the NFL for years to come. The matchup between the Maroon Goons, the Texas A&M offensive line, and Reuben Bain Jr. is going to be one that you're going to see play out on NFL Sundays. This is as good of a big man game as you get in college football. If you love line play, if you love ground and pound, tough-nosed, gritty football, this is the football game for you. Texas A&M has built their team under the personality of Mike Elko. Miami, although they get, I think, a lot of the credit nationally, and the perception of them is this flashy, similar to what they were in the 90s, skill players and NFL guys at receiver and DB. You look at this team closely, they are built up front under the image of their head coach in Mario Cristobal. I'm worried about Texas A&M. I'm worried that they are a product of a lighter schedule, and they are still clinging to the signature win that they had really early in the season against Notre Dame. A&M was 0-3 against the spread in its final 3 games. They lost to Vegas by an average of 11.3 points per game in those 3 games. They have not instilled a whole lot of confidence down the stretch. So how do they win this football game? Explosive plays. Mario Craver, Casey Concepcion, Marcel Reed has got to run back what he did in South Bend against Notre Dame, in my opinion, in this game, because I don't think anything's going to come easy in the run game. A&M, 28th in college football, 4.9 yards per carry. Miami is 5th in run defense in the country. How do you overcome a defense and a battle up front that I think is going to kind of be like 2 prize fighters feeling out what the other wants to do really early in the football game? Texas A&M faced 1 top 25 defense in yards per play allowed in the month of November in Missouri. A&M in the month of November, though, totaled 8 plays that went for 40 yards or more. That's 2 plays per game of 40-plus yards in the month of November. They generated 59 plays, Texas A&M, in the month of November that went for 10-plus yards. Got to be able to sustain that in this football game, and I think they're going to. How does Miami win? Which version of Carson Beck am I getting? Am I getting the version of Carson Beck that played over the last 4 games of the season? Because if so, I think Miami's in a pretty good spot. He completed 75% of his passes in 4 straight games against Syracuse, NC State, Virginia Tech, and Pitt. He also had 4 picks against Louisville. Miami, not a super explosive offense. And I think this is where this game is won for A&M, and I think it's why I like the Aggies. So Bill Connolly has this stat of yards per successful play. When you are successful, how many yards are you getting? Basically, how explosive is your offense when you are moving the chains and staying on schedule? Miami has 11.3 yards per successful play. That is 119th in college football. 6.6% of the snaps for Miami gain 20-plus yards. That is 66th in college football. They have got to go on long drives in order to score routinely. Now, Malachi Toney is as good a receiver as there is in this sport, and especially on the eastern side of the country. But I think that's asking a lot of a team that's got to deal with crowd noise, that's got to deal with the penalty factor, that's got to deal with Aggieland and stay on schedule. And that is what Texas A&M is really good at forcing you to do, is get off schedule. Bill Connolly writes at ESPN.com, 73% of A&M opponents' third downs require 7 or more yards. That is the most in the country. Texas A&M allows the lowest third down conversion rate in the country at 22.3%. And when they get you in predictable passing situations, that is where Cassius Howell feasts. 11.5 sacks. Texas A&M with the highest sack rate in the country. That being said, they give up a lot of explosive plays, Texas A&M. They are very feast or famine. They allow more yards per successful play than everyone in college football not named Rutgers. I think explosive plays decide this game. I think it's 4 or 5 big 20, 30 to 40-yard plays that ultimately decide Texas A&M and Miami. I think Miami's lack of explosiveness on offense is the difference. I think A&M's ability to hit those plays all season, coupled with the home field advantage of being able to force Miami into third and longs where you've got to deal with crowd noise, I think makes the difference in this game for me.
Miami's going to have to find a way to run the football. They're going to have to find a way to run the football.
You got to stay on schedule for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Create those open plays, find Tony, and that's how like you just laid it out. But you have to start with running the football. They have a couple good backs in Pringle and I forgot the other guy's name, but you just got to find a way.
2 more games to preview: Tulane, Ole Miss, my James Madison Dukes against Oregon. Hey, look, G5 games are games as well. We only get 4 playoff games this weekend. We might as well talk about all of them. We'll do that next. Wrapping up hour 3 this morning on Ramon and Will. Ramon out, but you've got myself, Will. At Ramon and Will, where you follow us on Twitter. I'm at Will_Bowling, 615-737-1045, our number. Couple of G5 teams going to play playoff games this weekend, starting with Tulane at Ole Miss. 2:30 on Saturday, a rematch of a 45-10 win for the Ole Miss Rebels against the Tulane Green Wave. How does Tulane win this football game? Well, for starters, they have got to protect Jake Retzlaff, their quarterback, a BYU transfer, way better than they did the first time these two teams played. In the first meeting, Jake Retzlaff had a 40% pressure rate. He was scrambling constantly, and he really hadn't thrown much to his receivers. He was 5 of 17 for 56 yards. Was not good at all. 3 games later, he was a lot better against pressure, as Bill Connolly writes at ESPN.com. Pressured a similar amount, yet he was 22 of 29, albeit against much worse defensive backs, respectfully, to our future soldiers out there, whom we respect at Army. But still, with what Ole Miss offers on defense, he has got to handle pressure much better than last time. Trinidad Chambliss had only started once in place of Austin Simmons when these two teams first played. And I think Tulane has got to take an opposite approach of how they played him the first time. They blitzed him all night, and it did not work. 5 completions of 30-plus yards to 4 different receivers. Trinidad Chambliss had a 41-yard run. Tulane limited Kawan Lacey to just 68 yards and 18 carries, but it was a 45-10 drubbing. I really don't like the matchup for Tulane. They are the number 113 pass defense in college football. Now, as Bill Connolly writes, Tulane's current 5-game winning streak has included a very different defensive approach, and they've beaten Memphis and North Texas in that run, 2 of the best offenses they faced this season. They are blitzing a lot less, and they are using more defensive backs and playing a lot more safe zone coverage, knowing the limitations they have on the back end. 0.3%, this is crazy to me, 0.3% of their snaps have had 4-plus defensive linemen on the field in the last 4 games. They have blitzed half of the time that they did in their first 8 games. They're getting lighter and faster. I think for Ole Miss to win this game, take what the defense gives you and run the football. I think Kawan Lacey might be the biggest reason why they win this one. I think Trinidad Chambliss and his ability to scramble with a safer defensive backfield, kind of pitting their ears back and just keeping everything in front of them. I think there's going to be space for Kawan Lacey in the run game to take what he's given. And at the end of the day, I just see an ultra-motivated Ole Miss team having their way with Tulane in this game. I don't think it's close. I think the score is separated at halftime. I think they're walking into a powder keg of a stadium. There will be no doubt that the game will actually be the biggest event. And oftentimes on a normal Saturday in the fall, I don't know if that's always the case, Justin, in Oxford, Mississippi, having been there a couple times myself, can personally vouch for it. I think it's going to be a playoff atmosphere. I think those fans are rabid and want somebody to yell at other than Lane Kiffin.
Well, I mean, Lane Kiffin was complaining about the fans earlier in the year.
Yes, he was.
For me, what is it like without Lane and Pete Golding now at the helm there? But Tulane's success against North Texas in the conference championship for them was the blitz. They sacked the quarterback 5 times. They have to make Trinidad Chambliss uncomfortable. But of course, you go back to the previous game. Chambliss was the leading rusher at 112 yards in the game. So what can you really do there if you're Tulane? You got to pick your punches and go with them. But at the same time, this is almost a juggernaut. David versus Goliath kind of matchup here. Same with Oregon and JMU, which we'll talk about.
Yep.
But I'm having trouble finding a way for Tulane. Sure, Bill Connolly can write about it, but I'm having trouble just to understand how Tulane can really do it. It starts with the defense, though, and that's where it's going to start.
They've got to do something they've not done all year and stop a really good passing offense and slow them down and create some turnovers, and then also handle Ole Miss's blitz and pressure which I don't think they're going to be able to do.
It's a lot to handle.
I think it's a 4 or 5 touchdown win again for Ole Miss. JMU at Oregon, the 5-12 matchup, Saturday night, 6:30, Autzen Stadium, the site. How does JMU do the unthinkable and win? They dominate in the red zone. That is their only shot. JMU has a good defense. I will give that to them. Louisville, really good offense this season. Jeff Brom only had 264 total yards against the Dukes earlier this season. That's the best team that James Madison played all season. Their offense also 46 points per game, 7.2 yards per play in the final 7 games. So JMU scores touchdowns 71% of the time they go to the red zone. That's 20th in college football. They allow touchdowns just 51.6% of the time. That's 19th in the red zone. Oregon's offense, good at turning red zone trips to scores, but their defense is 129th in college football in allowing touchdowns in the red zone. Every single time that football gets in the red zone, James Madison has to get 7 points. Just have to. Every single time. And Wayne Knight is the player to watch for James Madison. 15 carries of 20-plus yards this season, 7 carries of 40-plus yards. Alonzo Burnett is not someone who scares you at quarterback. 64th overall in total QBR. That's the worst of any starting quarterback in the college football playoff. But if he can hit some big explosives, which I don't think is going to happen, but let's just say for the sake of argument, he does. On passes thrown at least 20 yards downfield, he averages 39.9 yards per completion. If he's able to hit Landon Ellis, Nick DeGennaro, James Madison can make things a little tight when Shout plays. Problem is JMU's -1 in turnover margin. The other problem is DeCorian Moore, who's missed 4 games, Gary Bryant Jr., who's missed 3, and Evan Stewart, who hasn't played this year, have all practiced this week and are listed as questionable. Malik Benson and Jeremiah McClellan have been fine. What does Dante Moore look like with a full cast of characters around him to help him? Can Oregon give us a little glimpse of what their offense can look like with health at wide receiver? Does Dan Lanning allow this machine of an offense to run at full capacity and just throw it all out there and try to send a message to Texas Tech? I think he's going to try to. And I think if DeCorian Moore, Gary Bryant Jr., and Evan Stewart all do play and could be out there, those are 3 guys that haven't played at all together at the same time this season. You're going to see Oregon go for it and get Evan Stewart some live reps, try to get a lead, and then rest him, shut it down, and get healthy for Texas Tech. I don't think this one's super close either. JMU has got to hit some major explosive plays and score a touchdown every time they're in the red zone to have a shot. And that is a lot to ask for in Autzen Stadium in that environment.
JMU needs to play the Iowa and Indiana model for defense. Play very stingy.
You're 100% right.
Bend, don't break.
100% right. Coming up, there is one important question that Cam Ward has got to answer when the Tennessee Titans play the Kansas City Chiefs on Sunday. We'll talk about that. Plus, some great audio from Jeffrey Simmons yesterday, who was vulnerable, who opened up, who sent a really good message in the locker room after Thursday's practice. You'll hear that next.
Smashville hockey. Around here, it can sound like a language of its own. But hey, if you can pronounce Demumbrian, then names like Yossi, Shea, Marchessault will roll right off the tongue. Nashville Predators, only in Smashville.
One of the largest sports books east of the Mississippi, Circa Sports Kentucky, is now open. Catch all your favorite games on an 80-foot screen with stadium-style seating and live VSiN broadcast daily. Circa Sports, now open at the Mint Gaming Hall, Kentucky Downs.
My dad and I used to golf together all the time, but when he hurt his back, it was over.
To have your son want to spend time with you is amazing. That's why my chronic back pain has been so heartbreaking. Surgery, fused bones, long recovery. No way, not for me. A friend recommended stem cells, so I gave Kellum Stem Cell Institute a call.
I'm glad you're out on the course.
Yeah, it's really good.
Call the Kellum Stem Cell Institute today. Swing still looks just okay, though.
Selling your home can be stressful, but it doesn't have to be. Get a guaranteed offer from Mark Spain Real Estate. There are no showings, no open houses, no stress. Work with the #1 real estate team in the U.S. and close with confidence. Go to markspain.com today.
I'll be home for Christmas. You can count on me. I'll be home for Christmas, if only in my dreams.
I love living in Middle Tennessee. We've got great restaurants, entertainment, sports, and one of the nation's top Ford dealers right here in our backyard, Two Rivers Ford. Remember that name. Two Rivers has been a staple in our community since 1983. They're locally owned. They have a non-commissioned sales team, and they sell below MSRP. They've been doing business with integrity for decades. Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer.
.903, good morning, live from the 104.5 The Zone, the Circus Sports at Mid-Kentucky Downs Studios. I'm Justin Hawkins. An overtime thriller for The game of the year for Thursday Night Football last night, down 16 points in the fourth quarter. The Seahawks rallied back to beat the Rams 38-37 in overtime. Seattle clinches a playoff berth and now sits atop the NFC after the win. And the Titans' Thursday injury report as they continue to prepare to host the Kansas City Chiefs this Sunday at Nissan Stadium for a noon kickoff. Cedric Gray with a concussion, Amani Hooker with an illness. Both did not practice for a consecutive second day. Kevin Zeitler with a groin injury and Van Jefferson with a back injury returned, and they were both limited yesterday. A full weekend of football tonight. Alabama takes on Oklahoma in Norman as the college football playoff kicks off at 7 p.m. on ABC. Tomorrow at 11 a.m., it's Texas A&M hosting Miami on ABC. At 2:30 on TNT, it's Ole Miss hosting Tulane. And then the nightcap, Oregon hosts JMU on TNT in Eugene, Oregon. And in the NFL, you can hear both these games on 104.5 The Zone, courtesy of Westwood One. The Commanders host the Eagles at 4 o'clock, and then the Bears host the Packers at 7:20. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, you got to go to USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Fourth and final hour of the show and final hour of the week on Ramon and Will. Glad you are with us and glad you decided to spend some of your Friday morning with us. Hope your shopping is mostly done. Hope your commute has been smooth. And hope you packed your jacket. It's cold. Christmas shopping on deck for me today. I'm always late, and that's okay.
That is very late if you just now getting started.
Yep. Not just started, just continuing today.
You going to finish today?
TBD.
Stocking stuffers for us on Christmas Eve to wrap it up is usually how we do it. We're almost done. Pretty much done.
Well done.
The biggest thing when you online shop is waiting for it all to come in.
That's true.
Because I haven't wrapped any gifts because it's not all in.
It's fair. It's very fair. Can Cam Ward stand up against the Chiefs blitz? That is the question for me in Sunday's game between the Tennessee Titans and Kansas City Chiefs. We started the season talking about this when the Titans played the Broncos. We continue the season this week asking a similar question. According to Next Gen Stats, Cam Ward has completed 49.5% of his passes against the blitz this season, the second lowest rate in the NFL. His 69.0 passer rating against the blitz ranks third lowest. The Chiefs have blitzed 35.8% of the time on opponent dropbacks this season. That is the third highest rate in the league. That to me is the ultimate factor in this. And when you look at ways Cam Ward can continue to progress, can continue to get better, I think that's the ultimate question today. I think it's the question going forward into the offseason. For one, can Cam Ward stand and deliver accurate passes down the field or just simply to open receivers when he is pressured and when he is blitzed? Secondly, can the Titans give him more help around him this offseason in order to make that easier? Now, Cam's got to hold up his end of the bargain, and the inaccurate passes down the field to me are the biggest point of progress for him this offseason. Cam has got to hit the deep ball when it's there. And I think he would be the first to tell you he's not done that well enough this season. The Van Jefferson pass in San Francisco. Chimere Dike has had a number of deep balls that have just fallen about a step too far. He's slightly overthrowing these guys. Now, not every play is only an overthrow, and sometimes you've got receivers that are hit off their routes or bumped. All these things. I don't want to make excuses, though. At the end of the day, Cam Ward has got to hit on the open deep ball, and it's going to be really hard to do that on Sunday against Kansas City and against a defense that is uber aggressive in trying to get after you. Whether it's running, whether it's checking it down, whether it's the accurate deep ball, I just want a better result when teams blitz Cam Ward than what we have seen for most of this season. And this is the ultimate test of how to do that against a Steve Spagnuolo team that will blitz you the second you get out of your car and walk into the stadium.
Have you noticed that on his deep balls, Cam Ward, that he will lead the receiver to the sideline, and he throws it pretty much near out of bounds.
Mm-hmm.
So he's leading these receivers when they're kind of inside the sticks a little bit there. He's throwing them more on the outside. I think he did this in Miami, but there was the chemistry there with his receivers there that he's just not got quite yet. But he's leading them more to the boundary than he is inside the boundary.
Sure.
That's one thing I've noticed. Because, like you said, there's some overthrows. There's also some underthrows. But when he's on target, they're out of bounds.
Let's go to the phones. Richard is in Springfield, wants to talk about Titans and Chiefs. What's up, Richard?
The keys to the game for the Tennessee Titans is to make sure that Jeffrey Simmons sacked Gardner Minshew because Mahomes is out of the game. Jeffrey Simmons has to sack Gardner Minshew in order for the Tennessee Titans to get the ball from Gardner Minshew. And number two, keys to the game number two is that Cam Ward has to hand off to Tony Pollard and get through tackles. And the final keys to the game is that Cam Ward needs to throw the pass to the most receivers in every single offense.
Thank you, Richard. Appreciate the call. Those are good keys. Got to be able to run the ball the way he had the past two games. Jeffrey Simmons talked yesterday about what has been a very frustrating week and disappointing week as his home was, obviously, as you know, at this point, the big headline of the week, broken into right at the end of Titans and 49ers as he's not there. He's getting back really late. We talked about this earlier this week, and Jeffrey Simmons and the promise that he made to Amy Adams-Strunk when he was drafted, that he would do her and this organization proud. I'm a big Jeffrey Simmons fan. On the field, it's very easy to be. Off the field, in the impact that he's had in this community with being a now 3 consecutive year nominated Walter Payton Man of the Year nominee, representing the Tennessee Titans, first guy for the Titans to be nominated 3 years in a row. He got vulnerable yesterday in the locker room talking about all this, and I thought this was raw. This was impressive. It was honest. It is a hard place, an NFL locker room, as a lot of stuff, as you'll hear in this audio, is going on around you. I want to commend Jeffrey Simmons for being real, for being honest, for opening up about how his own charitable efforts and the way he wants to impact this community relates to what happened to him this week, trying to use a really unfortunate situation and make a positive out of it to send a message and to continue to do good things in this community. This was Jeffrey Simmons speaking with the media after practice yesterday.
I didn't expect it. That's the reason why I do so much work with my foundation, man. Especially with our youth. Our youth need us, man, because I think when we talk about the youth, man, these young boys, they don't have guidance, so that's the reason why I try to be in the community so much. You just never know what, when I go and talk to our youth in these schools, it's like you can say one thing to these kids to maybe pull them out the streets. Sorry, bro. You good, man. It could have happened to anybody, man. The only thing I think about, man, what if my mom was at the house? So, we know they had guns and weapons, so that's the only thing I think about, man. So when we talk about the community work, that's the reason why I don't do it for the publicity and the Walter Payton Man of the Year. You do it to try to impact somebody's life. So, yeah. So yeah, man, it sucks, and perspective's everything. So it could happen to anybody, man. So my message to my teammates and people around the league to continue to pour in our youth, because when I looked at my camera, the boys don't look them boys, they look like young kids. They look like young adults too that just lost right now. And that's the reason why we gotta continue to use our platform. We gotta continue to use our platform. So that's it, man. Like I said, I'm grateful that none of my family members was in the house and I wasn't there. And like I said, it could have happened to anybody. And we have to, especially as professional athletes, take the next steps of protecting ourselves and especially where we live. So that's it, man. So
it's Jeffrey Simmons speaking yesterday. I know it's hard to you have the very serious comments. You have him being honest, being vulnerable, and you've got the chaos of the locker room happening in the background. But I think Jeffrey Simmons has grown so much at the time since he was drafted here. I think the message is such a good one. I think that he really deserves to be commended and praised for the way that he has handled a situation that could just make you really angry for a long time and resentful and bitter. And I'm sure there is still some anger of what happened and his privacy being invaded in that way. But his ability to so quickly try to make a positive message out of this and try to inspire his teammates and inspire himself more to do more in the community to help kids who are put in a position to where they're going to an NFL player's house and breaking in and doing stuff like this. Good on Jeffrey Simmons and good on him using a really unfortunate situation to try to bring positivity and try to do something good.
Yeah, his foundation, Give Him a Reason Foundation, when he started, and like you said earlier, the message that he gave to Amy that he will not let her down. Mm-hmm. He's done anything but.
Yeah,
he's one of the best human beings that's ever stepped foot in a Titans locker room, and the Titans need him. And yeah, it's awful what happened. Let's see how things move forward, and we'll go from there.
Coming up, Ron Slade joins us. His weekly visit is Hour 4. Ramona Will continues after this. Ramona Will continues at hour 4 on your Friday morning. And that's Ron Slay's music. As always, here at this time each and every week, the perfect guest for the final hour of the week via the power of the telephone this morning. What's up, Slay? How we doing?
Will Lee, Jayhawk, what's happening, man? The thing's going good, trying to, navigate this Christmas thing, man, as far as shopping goes. Me and Hawk talked a little earlier. Now, the internet has done a terrific thing as far as online shopping, but at the same time, it's made me, let me speak for myself, it's made me impatient to go in stores and try to find things or ask for help. I'm just like, man, let me get on out of here, man. Just go do this online. I ain't got time to keep on playing around waiting on people. So, man, I'm trying to physically go out of here this morning and see some things. I ain't getting anything, but I'm gonna just see some things. So that's where I am today with it, Will Lee, man. How you doing, brother?
I'm good. You are literally Santa's sleigh this morning. I'm surprised that, honestly, you probably could have just shopped in the airport of all the airports you've had to be at. If you have been the most traveled man in sports media these past couple of weeks.
This is very true, Willie. This is very true. As some good times, man. People, y'all got to be on the lookout, man. Santa's sleigh will be. I'll be out and about next week. Okay. You have to, be tuned into some SEC Network shows, man. You might see me running across there, man, with Santa Slay. Got a nice little segment in there.
Right.
It's pretty cool, dressed up as Santa. So it's pretty good, man. I'm having a good time. I love this time of the year, man, especially, when our Titans aren't playing the best as they can right now. So it's more so, I just got to grin and bear it, and keep a little bit of football activated. But it's basketball time for me, Will Lee.
It absolutely is. Well, I want to talk basketball because there are two local teams in Tennessee and Vanderbilt who deserve our attention in the way they've been playing as of late. I wanted to get your take, though, on Oklahoma and Alabama tonight first, though, Slay, because obviously Tennessee played both these teams. Obviously, we've all been watching both these teams all season as SEC fans and as college football fans. Who do you trust more, Slay, in this game tonight? Ty Simpson or John Mateer?
Oh, that's tough, man. Golly. I would have to say right now I trust Mateer more just from the simple fact of him being able to use his legs, man. If the running game isn't if it's not protecting him, he can use his legs, get away, get the yards that he needs to keep the chains moving to keep the offense on the field. I know Jam Miller is coming back for Alabama. He said our last game. How much can they lean on him? How much rhythm will he have? But the offense have with him and being able to let Ty use a little play action or maybe hold the linebackers or hold off the blitz, pass protection, all of these things come into account. I tie against this Oklahoma defense, man. I think that may be more of it. I don't trust them against this Oklahoma defense getting after them. They're vicious, man. Them front seven are vicious. And Armington Thomas didn't even play against them the first time like that. So, man, you put him in effect. It's gonna be a tough ball game, man. But I'm personally rolling with Oklahoma on this one.
We spent a lot of time, Slay, this week, and I'm sure you guys have too on 3HL, and I know you guys have, talking about the decision Josh Heupel's got to make at quarterback going into the transfer portal. As names like Brendan Sorsby, TCU's Josh Hoover, Drew Mestemaker, DJ Lagway, Dylan Raiola, a literal who's who of quarterbacks are entering the portal. I know we got a couple more weeks, and I know there's still a bowl game to talk about between Tennessee and Illinois down the road here in Nashville too. Where are you at with the quarterback decision that Tennessee's got to make, and how do you try to compare George McIntyre and Faison Brandon to the options Tennessee's got in the portal, especially considering you've got a defensive coordinator now like Will Muschamp that's going to be coming to town in week 4, and you've got so many teams loading up at defensive coordinator the way teams of the SEC have an offensive coordinator over these last 4 years.
Yeah, you got a smorgasbord of quarterbacks that you can go out here and get. And one thing you got to keep in mind is what's the going rate for one of these quarterbacks, I think is the thing that has to be in the front of your mind. And then second, are you bringing them in to start or just compete? Me personally, I want somebody just to come in and push GMAC. I think it's his job. I'm okay with it being his job. But if you go get a quarterback and he outplays him, I mean, okay, all's fair. You know, let him have the job. You know, he took the job. So I think Faison would be quarterback number 3. But, man, I'm going to tell you what, I'm very impressed with Hoover. I didn't know who he was. I heard about Tennessee going after him last year. But at the same time, I had never seen him play. But watching TCU early on, I was like, Lord have mercy.
Right.
I could see him in this hyper system. When you talk about dropping it in a bucket, this man's efficiency is crazy on the deep ball. So that was impressive to me. So that would be my one. If I said, you know, I'm going to go get one out of the portal and I want him to start for me, it would be Hoover. But, I mean, what do we know? Like, how much of this transfers to this program, this system? All of these things have to come into play. But it's going to be interesting to see how it shakes out, man. But I'm all for GMAC getting the job, too. I think George McIntyre, man, he's got a great upside, you know, with Merck jumping in the transfer portal. It shows that, you know, I want to compete. And that's one thing he's never done, shied away from competition, George McIntyre. So I expect him to face it head on and give it a hell of a run.
I agree, Slay. And I think, too, when you look at the options Tennessee has, I'm looking at the way Tennessee is kind of operated in the basketball portal, which we'll talk about in a minute, too, and some of those guys that played pretty well earlier this week. Who can you get like Chaz Lanier was, who maybe for the sake of the system and for being a part of the program doesn't take the biggest offer financially, right? Like, I don't think Tennessee has an equalizer in Josh Heupel and an equalizer in the system to say, like, we don't need to spend $6 to $8 million on a quarterback in order to get high-level quarterback play. We just went and got Joey Aguilar, and he was wearing name tags to introduce himself to his wide receivers and then lit up Syracuse like a month later. Like, we don't need to be in the Indiana, Texas Tech, LSU tier of bidding, but maybe is there a guy, and Brendan Sorsby is the one that Vols fans have kind of attached themselves to because his parents and sister and brother-in-law live in Knoxville, who might be willing to say, hey, to play around family, to be in a system that I think can be a lot of fun to play in, am I willing to take a little bit less for all of these other factors, Slay? Like, that to me would be the best case scenario if Tennessee can find that, you know, top 10 transfer portal quarterback who's willing to get paid like somebody in the 10 to 20 range.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. If that's the case, man, just imagine what you can spend defensively.
Right.
Which you haven't been able to go find that one guy or two guys that kind of can flip the switch and say, okay, let me take over or be a game wrecker defensively. Those all kind of been homegrown in a sense, you know, how you've been able to come along, or 2 or 3 year guys that have been able to come in and make a difference defensively. But I feel exactly like you do, man. It's all kind of planned out. And where you're going with the ball, you just got to be accurate. So if you're somebody that's looking to take a little bit of less, and you know, the funny thing is the little bit less is the baseline, what you're going to make outside of football, they can make up for you. If you come in there and do what you're supposed to do, like I'm pretty sure Joey Aguilar, whatever his baseline was, he may have doubled that off the field after showing what his performance is. So it's almost one of those situations you betting on yourself. You just get out there and take care of the ball, and everything else as far as money-wise will fall into place for you. Because one thing about it, Heupel's not going to have you – he's not putting you in a situation to fail. You going outside of the system is what probably can make you fail more so than the system itself.
Ron Slay, our guest for his weekly visit here on the show. Tennessee basketball beat Louisville 83-62, Slay, and – the defense looked like a Tennessee defense again. It looked like a Rick Barnes defense, not letting guys just easily get into the lane and get a red carpet to the basket. Tennessee is still number 1 in all of college basketball in offensive rebounding percentage at 44.6%, which is pretty unbelievable. And you don't have to shoot as well from 3 when you can rebound so many of your misses and give yourself second opportunities to either take threes or get those putbacks to the basket. What did you like the most about this win against Louisville, Slay, on Tuesday?
Man, that one piece in particular, just that taking the man and understanding this is man-to-man defense, not man and help defense, man versus two people defense. No, you and that guy on the island, keep this guy out of the lane without fouling, meaning being attentive the way you're moving, cutting the guy off, making him pass the ball before, getting his shot off, a comfortable shot, challenging the shot without fouling. All of these things are what we've grown to love when watching Tennessee play defense. So to be able to see that and then them go and rebound and finish the possession was humongous. You saw different guys come in, get opportunities to play. So that lets you know what you were seeing in practice, what Coach Barnes was seeing in practice. It was transferring to the floor because he gave more guys opportunity to go out there and get stops. I thought, man, Louisville guards can go, and of course they were without their freshman star. With that being said, you still had guys that can get out there and get it done. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. So you took that challenge. That's why I thought coming into this game, man, it was going to be a problem because you had 10 days off and 3 losses. Can you imagine what that practice was like?
Oh, man, no.
That then you had the film session. Then you had the phone calls that Coach Barnes likes to give out to his players.
Right.
And it's not a 5-minute conversation. These are 25, 30-minute conversations of him talking to you, and you have to have a rebuttal. You have to answer. This is a conversation. This isn't just me scolding you or getting on you. So it was good to see all of that transfer to him. These guys played physical. You saw that demonstrative effort, the second effort. We finally saw a lot of attitude out of everybody, not just one guy clapping his hand. Basically, it's been Bishop Boswell showing emotion defensively, trying to get stops. Man, you saw Berg out there with emotion. You saw Felix Akpara, Jalen Carey, who always has it. Even saw a little bit out of Jacoby Gillespie. Like, it's starting to trickle down. So I go back to what I said, man, on you guys' show earlier in the basketball season. Give this team to the end of December, and they should be able to come together. Now, do you go through these hurdles, and that's why I come together? Whatever it is, he's got their attention now. So I expect them to get ready to go into conference play, man, and cause damage because they open up going to Arkansas, and I promise you, that's going to be rocking and rolling up there, man.
100%. And I think, too, when you look at the way Tennessee won the game, you can't just use the Michael Brown absence as the reason why they lost. Like, it's why I'm glad from the Tennessee perspective, this wasn't like a 4 or 5 point win where you can point to it and say, like, all right, yeah, if they'd had Michael Brown, this probably goes differently. But some other guys stepped up and filled his shoes on the offensive end. Pat Kelsey's Louisville teams are as fun and dynamic as it gets on the offensive end. He has not been able to figure out Rick Barnes' teams defensively. It's like the only program that can keep Louisville under like 80 points, and they can't even get to 70 with the way Tennessee defended them. Slay, I loved the Nate Ament drive early in this game where he had the offensive foul call because, A, I didn't think that was an offensive foul, and B, I thought that his willingness to drive, his ability to facilitate off of those drives just made such a big difference for this Tennessee team. And again, it goes back to, like, we talked about this last year with Tennessee when there were times where they just wouldn't take open shots. And it's like, I'd rather you end a possession with a miss where we can at least get back on defense a little bit easier than a live ball turnover where we can't set up in the half court, because half court defense is what we do, right? Like, if we can't play half court defense, we're not playing Tennessee basketball. So we at least got to shoot it, right? It felt like Nate Ament driving, facilitating, and him even just getting to the basket, Slay. That is part of what took away some of the turnovers, right? Like, is that the big reason why you feel like Tennessee kind of started to solve some of the turnover issues in Tuesday's win?
Yeah, absolutely. Being aggressive like that and understanding that, man, sometimes our best offense may be put it on the rim and let guys like Felix Akpara go get it, Jalen Carey go get it. You got Amari Abrams crashing, Nate Ament being able to crash as well. Like, those are high percentage shots for you because of the offensive rebounding position that you're going to have going up for those guys. The guards know to get back, but also, like you said, man, just that aggressive mentality. There were so many times we saw in the past the ball being skipped around and guys hesitating on the shot because somebody was closing out. No, man, if you're open, that's what we That's what ball movement, body movement is for. We don't need you to recreate something that's already created for you. Somebody penetrates and kicks to you, and it's a late closeout. You got to let it fly. Or you're putting us in a bad situation where we got to go work again to get another great shot. So I think, man, they're figuring it out. I thought also they meant start to figure out, too, taking one less dribble going in there and just raising up and shooting over a guy. That right there is going to work for you, young man. I promise you. Like, that right there is perfect for you because you're stopping and you're not trying to overdo it, and getting guys to run up under your legs and stuff where they're not necessarily calling it. So you're going to start to get that attention from the officials as well and get to the foul line more because of that. So, and then you're 6'10". Play like it.
Right.
Like nobody's getting up here to challenge your shot when they're trying to defensive slide and cut you off when they think you're driving. So use all that to your advantage, man. And it's all going to come together for them. It's a process, for freshmen. When you playing a gauntlet of a schedule, on the latter part of it, especially in December for Tennessee, and you look around the country, man, it's a lot of times, man, you get that recognition and that target is on your back, and you don't necessarily come out the way that you have been in the first 5 or 6 games because the scouting report is out. People are usually trying to eliminate you from the game plan. So if you can fight through that and you have other guys answer the bell like Amari Evans coming in, like Bishop, like Gillespie, Jalen Carey, that was the biggest thing too, man. Throwing the ball inside. We've been screaming this or wanting to have this opportunity since Grant Williams left. Like, it hasn't been a threat. And that's what I was saying last week. The guys have to demand more. It's okay to post up and want the ball, but if you're not calling for the ball and demanding it, why does the guard have to throw it in there? We might as well swing it around the perimeter because you don't really want it. Them guys were demanding the ball. Like, it was a couple of times, like, if I'm the official, I would have been saying, hey, get out the lane, man, get out the lane. I want that. I would have made the guards understand, listen, if you don't throw it in, I'm getting a 3-second call because that's how hard I'm posted. Either throw it in there or drive like Jacoby Gillespie did in transition and come lay it up on me and the guy that's on my back. So, man, it's small things, but they're starting to figure it out. Guys are playing a little more desperate. So this is, I think they're in a good spot.
Slay, we got 1 minute here on the way out. I wanted to ask you about Vanderbilt because the Doors beat Memphis in overtime, remain undefeated. They're the 7th oldest team in college basketball. They block more shots than anyone in college basketball, 8th most steals percentage per possession in college basketball. What impresses you the most about Vanderbilt, and how far can this team go, Slay?
Man, what impressed me the most is they found a way to win ugly. Like, this wasn't one of those blowout games. They averaged 95 points. And so
crazy.
For them to win a game in the 70s, that's impressive. On the road against a Memphis team that just got waxed by Louisville. So Penny had their attention, and it's always, especially in state, when you go play Memphis, it's always an ugly, mucked-up game. They want to make it that way. The turnovers, 20 turnovers to overcome that for Vanderbilt, man, you got to tip the cap to Byington. I thought it was impressive that he took Tyler Tanner off the ball and put Duke Miles there. So that lets you know we got more than one ball handler, more than one guy that can get us in the offense, more than one guy that can create. And Tyler Tanner being able to stretch the floor now is huge because he was one of them guys like, just don't let him penetrate. Now you can put him at the off-guard spot. So there's a lot of wrinkles that you got to see. I thought the size for Memphis bothered them a little bit, which I think is one of the things to be alarmed with Vanderbilt getting ready to go into SEC play. But if they're able to play like that and turn you over and get out in transition and get to the foul line and make their foul shots, that's some things that can save them. So, man, Byington got the boys rolling. They off for real. If it was an Achilles heel, it would be the length. That would scare me a little bit if McLaughlin got in foul trouble. But outside of that, man, they're a force to be reckoned with.
Ron Slay, always a force to be reckoned with. On your radio, on 3HL, and your television sets, and Santa suits, and Santa's sleigh, and headbands, and all of it. Slay, appreciate you as always, and we will talk to you soon.
No doubt, man. Love y'all guys, man. Everybody be safe this weekend, like Big Savage say.
Yes, sir. Love it. Thank you, man. All right. There's Ron Slay. with us here this morning. All right, a major domino has fallen in the NFL draft. I'll tell you what it means next. Friday morning, wrapping up the show. Been a good week. Appreciate you for stopping by. Ramon will be back with us on Monday. And another short week next week. We are off, obviously, on Christmas. And we are off the day after Christmas as well. So just another 3-day week for the next 2 weeks. Because that'll be the case on New Year's as well.
And a lot of football to talk about.
Very excited about that. Very excited. So we will be back with you on Monday morning. Of course, Titans and Chiefs. We'll have that for you on the Zone. Lee Company Cat at a kickoff at 9 a.m. Darian Mensah is the Duke quarterback who had been weighing options between the NFL draft and returning to Duke. He's going to go back to college. Pete Thamel with this, number of national reporters getting this a few minutes ago. Darian Mensah will be returning to Duke for his redshirt junior year after entering, I should say, the NFL draft. He has informed Duke of his decision. He led the ACC in passing yards and ranks number 5 in Mel Kiper Jr.'s quarterback rankings for the 2026 draft. I even saw some stuff this morning that Dante Moore, the Oregon quarterback, has a chance to get his way up to the number 1 overall pick, which is interesting. Oh, we're just so close, Justin. Can you feel the discourse?
Oh, yeah.
Can you feel the overthinking quarterback things that we probably already know?
Yeah, when's mock draft
today?
Monday?
Not on this show. Not on this show. We are still very far from that. But
you never know what happens at the NFL Combine, because as soon as those meetings happen and they get in front of NFL teams, Fernando Mendoza may no longer be the number 1.
They may think he's too nice, according to some.
That's true.
Which is crazy to me.
Are you surprised that Mensah is returning to Duke instead of going to the portal?
You know, I thought about that a little. He is getting paid at Duke, though.
I mean, he deserves it.
Paid.
He's a good quarterback.
Yeah. We'll see.
ACC championship game.
That's right. ACC champion, Darian Mensah.
Yeah.
Won them the game.
Crazy.
For sure. Yeah, we'll see. I think that is it's an interesting formula in building a roster, because they got QB right. And what was Duke this season? ACC champion, but they were also
8-5.
8-5. Yeah.
Not great.
Some complaints last night, apparently, from Sean McVay, questioning what we are calling the Zachwards pass, which is great.
It was absolutely insane.
The backwards pass that was deflected and picked up by Seahawks running back Zach Charbonnet in the end zone. Sean McVay last night saying, very interesting. Didn't get a clear explanation of everything that went on just because of the timing of it. I've never seen anything or never been a part of anything like that, and I've grown up around this game. I'm not making excuses. We don't do that. Doesn't move us forward, but we do want clarity and an understanding of the things that we can do to minimize that when we rejected the 2-point conversion. Well, Sean, you didn't reject it because the pass was backwards and you didn't pick up the ball.
Yeah.
It's like the one time a defensive player has ever not fallen on the ball. Defensive players love just pouncing on a football that they know good and well is not live. And the one time that doesn't happen, it results in 2 points. It ends up being one of the differences in the game and one of 3 successful 2-point conversions for the Seattle Seahawks in that win last night.
The defensive back, his last name's Curl.
Cam Curl.
Yeah. He had the ball in his hands and dropped it.
Yeah.
And then Charbonnet just nonchalantly picks it up.
Very nonchalant.
Probably not even realizing that he scored a touchdown or the 2-point conversion.
Well, the beauty of that is that it is once again a reminder to the city of Buffalo that lateral counts. Doesn't have to necessarily be backwards. Just has to be lateral.
What
and
a
literally be
way
the
in
definition of the word. A lateral Buffalo. Anyway, okay. We don't have much this year. Got to take what we can get.
That's how we end the show.
That is how we end the week. Appreciate you for joining us and stopping by. Of course, I always, 10 times out of 10, prefer to have Ramon here than just me be alone with my thoughts in this room. But we appreciate you for joining us. It is fun. Different kind of challenge hosting a show solo, and we'll do it again on Christmas Eve next week. So back at it Monday morning, bright and early at 6 a.m., reacting to playoff games, reacting to Titans Chiefs. Ramon will be back. And much more still to come. Your Friday continues next on 104.5 The Zone.
Remember, Ramon's not here, but everybody love everybody. Make it back to us on Monday. And always remember, your Twitter fingers and your mic is always hot.